Hello everyone, happy Sunday and welcome to another stream. Today we're going to be taking a look at some classic Satanic Panic stuff, including warnings about the demonic evils of Pokemon, Teletubbies, Harry Potter, and more. So it's going to be fun. We're just going to chill today and watch some old paranoid Satanic Panic stuff. So yeah, should be fun. How's everyone doing in both chats? How's everyone doing on YouTube? Happy Sunday back at you, James. How's it going? Let's see what else. Nearest Crow Hill, Sweet Lily Love, how's it going? Jay's a Proxy, Brain Squid, Sweet Lily Love, thanks for 125 stream streak, says, well, isn't that special? Church Lady. Ken's sister Sue, thanks for a 40 stream streak, says, hi Hannah, that color really suits you. I've had a rough day and I always look forward to your streams. Thank you. Well, thank you for watching. I'm glad anyone gets anything out of it. I appreciate it. They were correct about Harry Potter, just not the books. Dodger Mutt, thanks for a 10 stream streak, says, like the Pat Robertson gay Teletubby panic. Indeed. This Bob Larson video, I don't know if we'll get to this today, but this is an entire 30-minute VHS tape that Bob Larson made that's about him casting out gay demons. Not joking. This is about gay people getting the gay demons out of them so they can be proper straight Christians. So I don't know if we'll get into that today, but I did find that. So anyway, let's get started with the Pokemon thing because I think that's fun, and I've been playing a lot of Pokemon recently. Akito01, thanks for 140 stream streak, appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor, like the stream, hit the thumbs up button, helps a lot. And if you want to help support the show, you can always become a YouTube member, use Super Chats, or on YouTube, the same for subs or bits. So let's jump into it. M. Scheffler says, I lived through this nonsense. I don't remember the Pokemon Satanic Panic, but I was in a Baptist school, Baptist elementary school, at the time that Harry Potter was coming out and getting quite popular. And there was a lot of talk about how satanic Harry Potter was. Every morning we'd have like a prayer together as a class, and you could ask for different prayer requests, like what you wanted other people to pray for. And one of the kids once did a prayer request for their neighbor because they were reading Harry Potter, and obviously that meant they were going to hell. I found that even at that age, I found that to be odd.
Now, a lot of things come over from the Orient. A lot of things come over from the Orient.
The Orient! That's unfortunate. Bumble Homestead with 100 bits says, fuck endometriosis. The fact we can't change out our parts like printer cartridges is the biggest argument against intelligent design. Agreed.
And some things have a big impact on us and some things don't. I can't think of anything that come over from the Orient that actually had a big impact or a phenomenon type craze other than Godzilla. But there is something new that's come over.
I like that to this guy, the only Asian things he's aware of are Godzilla and Pokemon. Those are the two things.
To the United States and has actually captured the minds and the imagination of every
Oh, you didn't miss much, Profane Priestess. We're just starting.
single child. And you know what? It's not new at all. Japanese kids have been watching this thing since 1995. It started out as a cartoon, went to a comic book.
That's incorrect. It actually started with the video games in Japan, and then the trading card game, and then I think the show, and then the games came out in America.
They made it into a video game, went to toys, collectible card game. Now, praise God, there's even a movie on it. And it was started in 1995.
I love that movie. I gotta watch that movie again. Isn't the moral of that Mewtwo movie that battling Pokemon is wrong, but then they wipe everyone's memory at the end so they continue to have an economy entirely based on battling Pokemon, even though they learned that it's not good, but they forgot it. Phoenix Leftist, thanks for 155 stream streak.
It's not new, but it's new to kids, and they're eating it up. And it's called Pokemon. And it stands for Pocket Monster. And
I wonder why they chose Poliwhirl to be the center of the spread. That's such a random one to choose.
It made the cover of Time magazine. Now, the first thing I want you to notice is, do you notice any symbol up there that you've seen before?
Oh no, what's he gonna say? I don't even know. Let me try and guess. Is it something about the swirl on Poliwhirl? It's gotta be, because I don't even see any other symbols. It's gotta be the swirl on Poliwhirl. Oh, because hypnosis?
The spiral.
No!
And it stands for what? Male fertility.
Wait, what? A spiral stands for male fertility? I've never heard that one before. I've never looked at a Poliwhirl and thought, that reminds me of a virile man.
Okay? Now, this thing is actually called Poliwhirl, but they actually had another name for it before they renamed it.
Nemosaurus, thanks for following.
When this creature first came out, it was called Hypno. And they changed it to Poliwhirl to make it a little more innocent.
Not a little more innocent, I assume the original was a Japanese name. Like, they changed a lot of the names of the Pokemon between the Japanese releases and the English releases. Unstable Deadbeat, thanks for a 20 stream streak, says, and male fertility is satanic, apparently.
But you see, what it actually does is it's supposed to be...
Hypno is a different Pokemon. It is... It's the evolution of, it's got the like little thing that's supposed to be like a clock or a watch that it like goes back and forth, because like Hypno.
be able to mesmerize and hypnotize...
I captured one in Fire Red recently.
...as its enemies. And you can see how that would happen. That starts spinning around, and it's just like one of those hypnotic wheels that they use to hypnotize. And you see up here in the top, here's a creature, an alligator-type creature over here, dragon. Kind of a funny duck-billed thing down here. And this is an interesting character over here. This character over...
Sorry, it's just kind of funny to me hearing someone talk about Pokemon like completely ignorant to what any of the Pokemon are, because I'm just so used to Pokemon being a thing for like 30 years, and like Pokemon Go was a huge thing, and a lot of people know a lot of the Pokemon. It's weird to hear Charizard described as alligator-like to me. It's not wrong, I guess, in the face, but I wouldn't ever describe it like that.
Over here is called Mewtwo. And Mewtwo looks like...
Is it ever explained why Meowth could talk normally, but every other Pokemon could only say their name? Yes, they actually did do a story on that. He was like, it's very Frankenstein, actually, if I remember correctly. Isn't he like in the walls of someone's house and he starts learning English that way? It's been a long time since I've actually sat down and watched like a lot of episodes of the anime. Anyway.
Like an alien.
The pastor would make a killer gym leader aesthetic. I don't disagree. I agree. What type would he have? What would be his, like, gym type?
If you look at him real carefully, he looks like an alien.
Hey, Wilcal.
But you know, the first...
I mean, I don't think he looks more like an alien than a lot of other Pokemon.
Thing that I noticed about that thing is, when I looked at it, and I looked at those eyes, I said, you know what? That...
Weirdly, I think ground type too. I don't know why. He gives me ground type vibes. He would never do ghost Pokemon because they're demonic, obviously.
Kind of looks like the things that we used to pray to inside that circle.
Meowth wanted to impress a female Meowth by learning to walk upright and talk like a human, but she was disgusted by that. That's actually a hilarious origin story.
Now you notice that he has a particular salute that he's given. And he's in...
Meowth hid in the attic of a school and learned to talk like a human to impress his girlfriend. There we go. I remember the scene of him being in like a ceiling or a wall or something. That's all I remembered.
This pose. Every time that you see Mewtwo, he's in this pose. Now he has...
It's because he's a psychic Pokemon. He's doing the psychic thing, like, ooh, I'm reaching out with my psychic abilities. It's so there's a visual, so you know he's doing something. Because if there were psychic abilities, there's no reason you would have to physically do anything. But it gives a sense of action. He's doing something. It's a magazine spread. It's supposed to seem exciting. It's supposed to seem like, ooh, look at the Pokemon.
3 fingers. And those 3 fingers are always sticking out like that. Now, he doesn't have 5 fingers like we do. He has 3. But if they were the 3, on us, they'd be this. And that doesn't mean...
Would they be? Again, it doesn't really apply, because he has entirely different, like, appendages. He doesn't have 5, he only has 3, so it's all of his little phalanges, or whatever you want to call them.
Hook 'em horns. Doesn't mean I love you. Doesn't mean one more. It means hail Satan. It's the satanic salute that all Satanists identify themselves with.
I love the fake ex-Satanist scammers. Really wonder where they are today.
And it says here, you look here, it says for many kids it's now an addiction. Very much so. Cards, video games, toys, a new movie. Is it bad for them? What we need to look at is whether or not that particular statement holds true. Is it bad for them? Here's one.
Well, I don't understand it, so it must be bad. Speaking of things I don't understand, this is the first Mr. Pibb I've ever tried. I'm surprised it's actually good. I'm not sponsored by Mr. Pibb. This is just the first one I've ever had. Overthought with 100 bits says, no specific type, but a team of Arceus, Bidoof, and Chandelure, Catholics, Candles, and Doug Trio, Trinity. Oh, okay. Arceus God, Bidoof God, Chandelure, Catholic, Candles, Doug Trio, Trinity. Sure, I accept this. This is an acceptable, thought-out answer.
One of the characters, cute little one. Everybody go, oh, come on. I know you wanted to do that, see? That's why I did that. He's cute. But the one thing I've noticed about him right off, this is Pikachu.
Bring back fat Pikachu.
One thing I noticed about him right off was his tail. It's a lightning bolt.
Oh, he's gonna say a lightning bolt, like Satan fell like a bolt of lightning or some stuff. They always like to connect lightning to Satan.
And it's the satanic Z. It even comes down here to a point.
Wait, the Z is satanic?
Now, just by looking at him...
That's new to me.
Enough alone is not enough to really be able to say, okay, yeah, that's bad, or that's satanic. What we first need to do is we need to look at the actual production of these things. And the first thing we need to do is we need to look at who actually produced the trading card game that has captured the minds and the imaginations of our children. Now, it doesn't make any difference what I say, it's what their own material says, because their own material will give them away. Okay? So I'm going to read to you, here's a direct quote from the web pages of the producer of this game. Listen to this. The Pokemon trading card game is a new collectible card game that is made and distributed by Wizards of the Coast. What is a wizard? Male practitioner of black magic. Wizards of the Coast, the same company that made the best-selling game.
Have I seen these plushies based on the Game Boy Pikachu? I haven't. That's adorable, though. I would love that. Hope I come across one someday.
Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is a heavily occult-laced trading card game which has been very popular in the 90s. And I should also tell you that Wizards of the Coast also owns a subsidiary company named TSR, and TSR is the company that puts out all Dungeons and Dragons material.
Can you believe this game company releases multiple different games? My goodness, they're so evil.
So let's look at Magic the Gathering, because this is the same company that puts out Pokemon. So let's see where they're coming from. Now,
you want to share this with Surus? Here's a link. Hold on. There you go. How old is this? This is from the 90s, I think. Late 90s, maybe early 2000s.
From seeing the symbols, your actual discernment should now begin to be sharpened. How many see a circle? How many
I see an oval, and I see some dots that are kind of in a vague circle arrangement, I guess.
you see a pentagram? Yeah. If you look, there it is. See that? Magic the Gathering. This is a role-playing game. Now, parents, in case you don't know what that is, that means that your child...
I don't think I would describe Magic the Gathering as a role-playing game. It's a card game. It's like a what? I don't... Am I what? I don't know if I'd describe it like that.
Actually becomes a character in the game. Actually becomes a part of the game. And that's what makes it exciting, is there's not many games out there that they can actually become a part of. They can play it, but they don't actually become a part of it. In this particular game, they actually do become a character in the game.
It's like you could describe D&D like that. Like D&D is an RPG, but the card game's a card game.
And remember, it said that it's an occult game. One of the dangers of this thing is, being a role-playing game, is that it's played with the mind. How many know that the mind is a very fragile thing? And what happens is, in these role-playing games, I'm going to use the example of Dungeons and Dragons because TSR is the one that puts out all their material. The danger of Dungeons and Dragons, or any kind of role-playing game like this, is that it's played with the mind, and when played with the mind begins to lose that fine line with what's real and what's fantasy. And
that is not true for the vast majority of people. You already have to have some, like, mental stuff going on to be able to delude yourself like that.
The more you get into the fantasy world, the more it seems real, and all of a sudden...
And at that point, any kind of escapism becomes a danger if you're that delusional.
Now you don't know what's real and what's not. In Dungeons and Dragons, this is a game played by 3 or 4 people. And what you do is you have one particular person that's the dungeon master, and he sets all the rules up for this thing. And then in your mind, you actually fight battles. You go through mazes, you go through dungeons, and you actually fight wars with evil wizards, dragons, demons, powerful satanic beings. It's all...
Right, so you're fighting them, so shouldn't you be positive of that? It's framing demonic forces as evil. Isn't that what you want?
All in the mind. And I mean, if you've got a vivid imagination, you can have one heck of a game. And what happens is that you can play this game for 10 to 12 years. Because the object is, as long as your character is alive, you're in the game. Once your character...
I feel like that'd be very impressive to keep a character for 10 to 12 years with older school D&D, because the deaths came a lot more often.
Character dies or gets killed in that particular game, you're out. So you can imagine that if a person loses touch with reality and now they've actually become that character, guess what? Anything that happens to that character now happens to them. And there's overwhelming evidence, psychiatrists and psychologists both tell us, there's overwhelming evidence showing that a lot of teenage suicides that are caused by Dungeons and Dragons are caused because the player has finally lost touch with reality.
What a subcategory of a subcategory amongst teen suicides caused by D&D. How many of those are you claiming there are? Jesus Christ.
And what's happened to them now, they actually feel a psychic bond with that character. And so the character gets killed off and no longer in the game. You have no purpose.
The longest running game is 17 years, to your knowledge.
Because all your purpose was for the last 10 to 12 years was playing Dungeons and Dragons. So your character gets knocked off, guess what? So do you. So let's go back to Magic the Gathering. Here's one of the cards. Yeah, isn't he cute? This is Cabal.
That's a spooky skeleton.
Ghoul. Now, you notice that there's counters up here. In other words, this stands for 2 points. And it says Cabal Ghoul. Now, in case you don't know what a ghoul is, it's a dead, rotting, decaying thing that's been in the ground and magically summoned back to life. So you have a walking dead thing. And that's what a ghoul is.
I thought a ghoul traditionally was a creature that ate human corpses, or became monstrous after eating human corpses or something.
And in this particular thing, it says,
Though maybe it has a specific meaning in magic that I don't know.
at the end of each turn, put a 1+1 counter on Cabal Ghoul for each other creature that died during the turn and was not regenerated. In other words, you have cards that'll actually keep your character alive for a certain amount of time. Here's another interesting card, because it's called the All Hallows Eve card. Again, this is all in Magic. Magic the Gathering. By the way, there was a news clip that I read about 2 weeks ago that spoke of a young boy in Maine. I don't remember what the town was, but it was in Maine. And he came home one day and asked his mother about Magic the Gathering, and said that the teacher had decided to use Magic the Gathering, this card game, as a new and exciting way to teach mathematics in school, in their class. And they even formed what was called a magic club, and that all the kids were part of this magic club. Well, the mother said, well, you're not going to become a part of that. You're not going to be in that. But one of the kids had given him one of the cards. And that
way to keep your child away from a fun activity from school?
Card he showed to his mother. And that card was called Necromancer. And on that card, it showed spiritual beings actually being risen up out of the ground, out of their grave. And then he asked his mother, what does summon mean? And she said, why do you ask that? And she said, he told her, he said, because all the kids on recess go outside on the school grounds, pick up huge sticks, wave them in the air, and say, spirits, enter me.
I'm gonna go with no on that one. Kids can do some weird stuff. I don't know what would provoke them to do that. Spirits enter me.
True. This is All Hallows Eve. Again, 2 points symbolized by 2 skulls. Here's your demonic black cat. I guess it's a black cat. I've never seen anything look like that.
It looks more like a monstrous creature. Looks like a little bear. Looks like a bear of some kind.
Your demon in the middle, jack-o'-lantern, full moon, and it says this card is called sorcery. Sorcery comes from the Greek word pharmakeia. It's where we get the word pharmaceutical. In occultism, it's witchcraft through drugs, sorcery. And it says put 2 counters on this card, remove a counter during your upkeep, and when you remove the last counter from All Hallows Eve, all players take all creatures from their graveyards and put them directly into play. Treat these creatures as though they were just summoned. You choose what order they come into play. Remember that, again, this is a role-playing game. This is called the Magician. I wonder why. Here you see the man kneeling, and look, he's forming with his hands the triangle, right there. And he's kneeling in front of a flame. There are the crescent moons behind him. Over here can only be demons, hellfire, all around here. And it's called the Magician. And these are collectible cards. And these are cards that one day your child may come home with, or may know of a student that has given him some of these cards. Now you will know what they are. So let's go back to Pokemon, because now we've already established that the same company that puts out that game and puts out Dungeons and Dragons puts out cute little Pokemon. Isn't that interesting? Now, before we go any further, I want to see...
You're surprised that a company that prints trading cards and D&D material also prints other trading cards?
That if we as a group can agree on something. So I need little audience participation here to say yes or no. Okay? Are you into that? Yeah. Okay. Listen to me carefully. If we examine the characters of this particular program, and they are the...
Sweet Lily Love with 100 bits says, my guess is this guy played D&D once and got killed by an elf and he's never gotten over it.
Kind of role models that we want our kids to be watching. In other words, if this whole game, the characters of this game, the monsters, this whole premise of this thing actually goes to establish the kind of values, the kind of standards, and the kind of morals that we want our kids to have when they reach adulthood, that it's okay. In other words, if they actually help to establish the kind of morals, values, and standards that we want our children or our grandchildren to have when they get to be an adult, that it must be all right. Can we agree on that? Yes. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to examine and see what kind of role models we have in this game. Now, what we need to do...
I'm so curious how he's going to describe the different characters in Pokemon.
Then, everybody go, oh, again. Oh, I know, he's cute, isn't he? Little satanic tail.
How do these people not understand this is a them problem? It's a cute little mascot thing. You don't need to like it. You don't need to let your kid play it if you don't want to, I guess, because I get that stuff like that can get expensive, whatever. But to say that it's demonic or satanic is so paranoid.
Up here is the Pokemon ball, okay? That's this thing here.
Excuse you, sir, it's a Pokeball, not a Pokemon ball.
Okay, and inside of that, you catch the Pokemon. Let the camera get a view of that. That's the Pokemon ball, and you actually catch the monster inside of that thing and harness the power in there. And then you can call on that power.
Oh, he's got an Animorphs. Is he going to talk about Animorphs? Dahlia Vianney on YouTube with a $5 super chat says, I play Magic. I had to pause on All Hallows Eve card because I have a deck it needs to go in, and I've never seen it before.
To regenerate itself outside of that ball, and praise God, it turns into a bigger and better monster. Now, we're told that there are 150 species of these particular creatures on the face of the earth. And we're also told in the material that these pocket monsters are creatures that inhabit the world with humans, and that they can evolve and grow in bigger and better creatures. Now, the object of this game is gotta catch them all. And they tell you that if you catch them all, you become a Pokemon master. Listen, parents, that word master will appeal to any child.
What are you talking about?
Because they can become a somebody. They can become a master. And you know what? If you're the master of something, you don't need mom, you don't need dad, you don't need grandparents, you don't need aunts and uncles, you don't need school, and you probably don't even need a church.
I think that maybe you're getting a little ahead of yourself. All you pointed out was that Pokemon Master is a thing, and now you think a kid thinks they don't need anyone because they caught all the Pokemon? No child thinks that, oh, I beat the Pokemon. I'm a completionist. Now I don't need anything. Your child is developing megalomania from Pokemon? Your kid had other problems. I don't know what to tell you. Finikagami says, you know something, he's right. This evil is everywhere. There's these books that people are obsessed with that never stops talking about rape, murder, and human sacrifice. It preaches how you need to serve this jealous, cruel, genocidal god who demands war and death and is plotting the end of the world. We must oppose these cultists who read this Bible. Ba-doonch.
Because you're a master. You can become a god.
It's a little bit of a stretch to go from, I caught all the Pokemon, I'm a Pokemon master, to I'm a god. I think maybe you've jumped from A all the way to the demonic Z. Like, I feel like you've missed many steps between those two things.
That's the premise of what this has been teaching. You become the Pokemon master. That's the whole premise and the whole goal of this game. Now, this is the main character right here. He's called Ash Ketchum.
H. Baird says he's right, though. When I was a kid and got to the maximum rank and where in the world is Carmen Sandiego, I immediately filed for emancipation.
I'll catch him, but Ash Ketchum. Okay? And again, it doesn't make any difference what I say, it's what their own material says. I'm going to tell you what they describe him as. Listen to this. An energetic and determined 10-year-old who's a little too competitive, and he's obsessed with catching all Pokemon and driven to become the world's foremost Pokemon master.
also has the incredible ability to stay 10 years old for 30 years. So that's something. That's a little demonic, maybe.
And you know, every time that your children watch this program, whether it's a video, whether it's a cartoon, whether it's a comic book, no matter what it is...
You couldn't find a higher resolution image of Ash Ketchum than this? Do I look like I know what a JPEG is?
They hear this mantra, this rap song that's played over again. And it says, I will travel across the land searching far and wide. The
theme song isn't a rap. The Pokey rap is a rap. But you're calling the Pokemon theme song a rap? It's not.
Pokemon to understand the power that's inside. And then it's enchanted to them. Gotta catch them all. Over and over and over and over again. You know what it does? It fuels your child's craving for more cards, more books, more videos, more movies.
Yeah, that's people advertising to your children. That's a capitalism problem. That's not a Satan thing. You live in a market economy where you're allowed to target advertisement towards children. If you don't like that, vote for people who will change that. It has nothing to do with Satan. Fenekagami says, to be fair, if you actually read the Pokedex entries, a ton of Pokemon are evil and need to be stopped. So many of them prey on children and cause distress and nightmares.
Movies. It's designed to do that. That's what we call enchanting. Here's the next character. This is Misty. Look at this. Now this is off of a comic book. This is actually a page of a comic book. But if this was clear, if this was actually clear, you'd see that that's a halter top. It stops right there.
Not a halter top.
There. And she's got short shorts on. And you know she's got to be about the same age as what Ash is. Okay.
This man goons to Misty Rule 34, confirmed.
Okay. And she's described as Ash's companion, and listen what it says about her. She's headstrong and stubborn, constantly arguing with Ash. Typical woman. No.
You know, I'm not surprised. But damn. What a fucking asshole.
Just kidding.
Ha 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 ha! Or isn't your sexism funny?
God forgive me. All right. Frivolous spirit. That's what it was.
Just Peach with a tip says, so no one can be a master plumber or electrician in his church? I wouldn't want to be in that building.
And here's Brock over here in the corner. And Brock is by far the most hormonal. Because his fascination with the opposite sex...
Oh, because he's horny.
...many times gets him or the group in trouble. Well, then there's Pokemon trainer Gary. And Gary's not pictured in here.
H-Bird says, just imagine how he'd be if he'd seen the deleted scene from the Japanese version. Is this the one where James has tits? Yep, that's the James with tits. Yep. I can't play much of this for obvious reasons. How dare they cut out that scene? Those cowards. M. Scheffler says, God will forgive him. God is a sexist ass.
But Gary is a real self-centered jerk. He's vindictive and he's obnoxious.
Yeah, he's a rival. He's supposed to be.
And then there are two characters, and one's called Jesse, and the other one's called James. And listen to what it says about them. It says, prepare for trouble, make it double, Jesse and...
Carpcosian says, I wish my boobs were as big as James's. Ditto. Ditto.
James are an evil gang looking to steal rare Pokemon. Jesse and James are stuck up, fashion conscious, and you know what? In the program, they're also prone to cross-dressing. Now, if you don't know what that means that if you feel like you're a woman in a man's body, you wear women's clothing.
Really, that wouldn't be cross-dressing. Cross-dressing would be someone is someone is a man, identifies as a man, but likes to wear women's clothing sometimes. That would be cross-dressing because the clothing is opposite of their gender identity, right? That's not a trans person.
You dress like one. If you're a woman who feels manly, you wear men's underclothing and dress like one. Cross-dressing. Oh, what kind of role model would that be? Okay, now remember at the first, I think that's enough right here, because I think we've got a pretty well good establishment on this thing. Remember that I said...
I like that he didn't even say any of it was evil. He just described it and assumed that you would automatically view it as evil too. Kind of funny.
That if the characters were the kind of role models that established the kind of values, standards, and morals that we wanted our kids to have when they got to be an adult, that this game or this particular thing is okay. Remember we said that? Okay, so let's examine what we got. Let's see. Headstrong, stubborn, quibbling, self-centered, vindictive, obnoxious, hormonal, sexually preoccupied, evil, thieving, cross-dressing jerks.
They're villains. Like, the cross-dressing thing doesn't matter. It's a gag, generally, in the show. But, like, they're the villains. We've seen this before when we saw someone in the 80s talking about He-Man, and they were describing, like, Skeletor and some of the villains and how evil they are. And it's like, yes, they're the villains. Do you understand story structure? You need conflict. And in order to have conflict, usually simple for a children's show, you're doing, like, basic character versus character stuff. Not necessarily like He-Man brooding about internal issues and doing like man versus self, but you have direct conflict with other characters. You need them to be evil or something, right? To spur the conflict. What do you expect shows to be?
I don't know about you, but I mean, even if I wasn't a Christian parent, I wouldn't want my kids to grow up with those kind of traits. Then we have to actually say that the characters of this game don't biblically stand up, do they? In other words, they don't represent the kind of values and standards we want our kids to have.
I like that they haven't seen a single frame of the series, but based solely on this man's incorrect descriptions of Pokemon, they're like, well, this guy's right. This isn't what I want my kids to watch. You haven't even seen it. Jitara says, funny thing is that in later generations of Pokemon, you can catch Fragment of Arceus, who is God, but you can also catch Garantina, which is essentially Satan in the Pokemon universe, down to the whole rebelled against God and banished backstory. There's a lot of inspiration from real-world religions and cultural tales that's pretty neat, but the xenophobia of this time might make that fact worse.
And they're definitely not the role models we want our kids to be.
Giratina, thank you.
But these are the characters that our children are identifying with day after day after day, playing this game, watching the cartoon, reading the books, looking at the videos. Now, we're also told that these actual beings have supernatural abilities. In other words, they can evolve and grow into bigger and better monsters. Now, this is a scene, actually this is a poster from the movie. And look here, this is Mew over here, M-E-U. He's kind of cute. And this is Mewtwo over here, complete with his satanic salute. And if you notice, that pose is always given with the left hand. That's significant. Remember the left-hand path? And we're told that they get bigger and better. Of course, that's what we always want. Bigger and better monsters, that's what the world needs. And we're told that they get bigger and better through the use of energy. Now,
what? Through the use of energy? No? If it's a Pokemon that evolves, and not every Pokemon in the first generation evolves, I don't know at this point how many do or don't have evolutions, but certainly in the first generation of Pokemon, not every Pokemon even can evolve, but when they do, it's either because you've battled enough with them and they've gotten enough XP that they've raised enough levels that they'll evolve, or other Pokemon require special items like a stone to evolve them. At no point does energy come into it.
A funny thing happened. Well, actually it wasn't funny, but an interesting thing happened when this movie, the Pokemon, was actually first released in Japan. I want you to see it. This is from CNN. Look at this. Because this is very highly unusual. Japanese cartoon triggers seizures in hundreds of children.
Yeah, the Porygon episode.
And look at this.
Though I think it wasn't actually the Porygon scene that did it. I think it was Pikachu doing some sort of lightning move that triggered it. Steve with a Q says, is it me, or is there something about teaching children to believe unquestionably in a fantastical fairy tale which leads to paranoia that they'll end up believing in the wrong fantastic fairy tale? Yeah, teaching magical thinking as a foundation for your ideology is no bueno. M. Scheffler says, this guy seems super insecure about bigger and better, like he's ashamed of something. And M. Scheffler also says, I'm saying his dick's small. I get it. I get it.
This is Tokyo, December 17th, 1997. This is when the movie was first actually released over in Japan.
It wasn't the movie, it was a TV show, it was an episode. Does this guy think that it was demonic and doesn't understand photosensitive epilepsy? Is he seriously going to imply that demons gave people seizures?
The bright flashing lights of a popular TV cartoon became a serious matter Tuesday evening when they triggered seizures in hundreds of Japanese children. In a national survey, the Tokyo Fire Department found that at least 618 children had suffered convulsions, vomiting, irritated eyes, and other symptoms after watching Pokemon. Japanese television network NHK reported that 111 people were still hospitalized Wednesday morning. And now, spokesman Hiroshi Uramoto said that a later broadcast of the show, scheduled for 30 other stations nationwide, had been canceled and that an investigation was well underway. We are shocked to hear.
Benekagami says it's wild how they're so against the opposing ideas that they can't even stand to have these ideas represented as evil by having them be villain traits. So they often hate stories where demons are the enemies. It proves how much this is just about what makes them feel icky and then working backwards from there.
Many children were taken to hospitals, Uramoto said. We will investigate thoroughly and consult with experts. And you know what they found? Not one of those children had a history of epilepsy. Now,
they're children. They'd probably never faced a scenario where they had that kind of flashing, strobing light before. It doesn't mean that they developed epilepsy because of Pokemon, you psycho.
You know, working in the mental health field for as long as I did, I can tell you that bright flashing lights will trigger off in occasion seizures and convulsions in kids or even adults that are prone to be epileptic. But not in 100 and so kids who have no seizure problem and no epileptic history. There's something unusual about that. And they went through, and it goes on further to say that they went through and even did CAT scans. And the whole premise was that at the end, they had to conclude that they don't know why it happened.
It's the lights! What are you talking about? He's just lying!
Or did something happen that they can't explain? Remember I said that they get their energy through energy balls. And here is...
Again, he's like conflating like the card game and the cartoon. Like I know there's energy cards for the card game, but there's nothing like that in the show. Like in the lore of Pokemon, that's not like a thing. You know what I mean? It's a game mechanic, but that's not a thing in the show.
It's a picture of cute little Pikachu, and he's being energized by an energy ball. And now you notice he's not
No, he's not. What? There's no energy ball. He's just like that.
So cute anymore, and his little satanic tail is really erect.
Please don't call Pikachu's tail erect.
And now, parents, if you're not up on Pokemon, you need to be. And one of the things you can do is go out and buy the official Pokemon trading card game Player's Guide. And you can get this at any store that sells any of the Pokemon stuff. I mean, anything. You can get it like at Toys R Us or any of those places that sell any of the Pokemon. And it says on the back of this, catch them all, then build an unbeatable tournament deck. And One of the things you can do is look through here because it shows every Pokemon in existence, and it tells you what their powers are, and it tells you how they get weak, and it tells you how they energize and what you need to energize them.
Not how they, again, it's like he didn't read any of this stuff, not how they get weak. It's like a rock, paper, scissors style system where certain Pokemon types are weak or strong against each other depending on their type.
But something very unusual is also...
Like, he seems to not understand the basics of the show or the game.
In this book, and that is that they actually show the energy balls that is used to make these monsters bigger and better. I want you to see them. I hope you can see them from where I am. I'm going to hold it out here so hopefully you can see it. Look at the yellow.
Yeah, these again are like gameplay mechanics for the card game, but they're not diegetic elements of the show in universe. These aren't a thing that exist in the universe of Pokemon.
What do you see?
In that way.
Lightning bolt. Lightning bolt. Look here. All-seeing eye. Everybody see that? Up here is the clenched fist. Symbol for rebellion, anarchy.
It's for fighting type, you dipshit!
Right down here is a powerful witchcraft symbol, where my finger is. Powerful witchcraft symbol, and it's a symbol for fire.
Again, it's because there's fire-type Pokemons. There's also grass-type, represented by a leaf underneath it, and water next to it. That's the rock, paper, scissors system, is there's different, like, types of Pokemon.
Down here is another powerful witchcraft symbol. Actually, a New Age symbol. They call a New Age symbol for Earth. Okay, which is a green leaf. And down at the bottom here, this blue ball down in here is the symbol for energy of water. And water transforms into wind. Earth, wind, and fire, the three basic elements of all witchcraft. Parent. And I'm going to ask you...
Those are like classical Greek elements. What are you talking about?
Parents, grandparents, concerned aunt and uncles, friends, do you think they put that in there by coincidence? Do you think they just built this game, put these on there, and said, hey, let's just put those symbols on there, they look cool. Kids won't know what they are, but they'll like them because they look cool.
They have no thought that these things are evil in any way. You are completely projecting that onto the creators of the game. There's no thought of, kids won't know what these mean, because they don't mean that. That's not the intention of the creators whatsoever. Fenekagami with 40 bits says, it's Japan, dude. They're very repressive and conservative country, especially politically. I'd imagine that even though their healthcare system isn't as aft as America, I'd imagine a ton of kids go undiagnosed for years when they have problems because the families don't want to be labeled. The nail that sticks out is the one that gets hammered, is a Japanese proverb. Part of why anime is so wild is that it's a release valve for how repressed Japan is, and a rebellion.
Or did they put them on there because they know what the meaning of each one of those symbols is? And they want to desensitize our children to seeing those symbols so much that when they see them in other things, hey, no big deal. There is a devised plan going on for the battle of our children's minds. There's a war going on right now for the children because Satan wants them really bad. Who better to serve the Antichrist than the youth? And the whole object is to catch them while they're young. Remember the old
Gotta catch them all.
The Pokemon motto? Gotta catch them all?
Oh, I was joking.
Who do you think feels that way? It's the enemy. Gotta catch them all. Gotta get them while they're young. Gotta induct satanic doctrine. Gotta put these symbols in their spirits. Got to put these monsters in their heads. Got to mess up their dreams. Got to mess up their reality. Got to break up the family. Have you ever tried to get talking to a child when he's into this game? It's impossible. They spend more time on this Pokemon. And you know what? It's amazing that your child can tell you every Pokemon in existence, even tell you where they get their power, what they do, and how they do it, but they can't tell you what you told them 5 minutes ago.
Your kid remembers things they enjoy, but didn't pay attention to you because they're a kid with a low attention span. Wow, it must be demonic. Kids never just don't pay attention to their parents.
They also can't tell you probably what they learned in school that day.
These damn youths!
And even worse than that, they can't quote you scripture. There's something wrong. And I'm talking to the men right now because, you know, men, we've been given an awesome task by God. We have nothing to say.
Jitaro with 50 bits says, Pokemon are simply inherently magical. The show and games straight up explain that all living things in the universe just have something called infinity energy, some more than others. This energy goes by different names in the series, but it's what causes evolution, mega evolution, and all the other gimmicks that occur in the games.
About it. You know why? God tells us that we're the priest of our homes. We are the ones who say, we are going to follow God. I don't care what anyone else does, but as for me and my family, we are going to serve the Lord. We are the ones who are supposed to say, this stuff is going to be allowed, and this stuff is out. And ladies, women of God, you've got an awesome task ahead too, because the Word of God says that you're to raise your children in the ways of the Lord. Not in the ways of these Pokemon, not in the ways of witchcraft or Satan worship, but in the ways of the Lord. Are we doing that? Or are we subtly giving in? This is a picture from one of the comic books. Look at this. Pokemon Psychic Surprise.
Yes, they're psychic-type Pokemon.
Surprise, all right. Look at this. This creature right here is called Haunter. And I talked to 3 kids in 3 different cities who actually came up and told me that they were having bad dreams and that creature was in their dreams.
I'm sorry, are we using kids' nightmares as evidence for Satanism now?
Called Haunter. That makes sense. Haunt. Right up here is a creature that's
Just a Peach with a $1 tip says, why do they wait until you've had many years to teach your kids what you want? I mean, they only start working on kids who are learning to be their own person. Wow.
not quite so cute now. This over here is not quite so cute. Little Pikachu down here, he's crying his eyes out. He's not cute, and even Ash doesn't look cute anymore. Psychic...
They all look still cute, to be honest. Like, none of this is actually scary. They're like cutesy ghost designs. It's not frightening.
Surprise. And you know, going back to those energy balls, I believe that those energy balls represent that the Pokemon get their power by supernatural occult ability. You saw the symbols. Remember, the materials speak for itself. They give themselves away. And what made that even more evident was two cards. One was called Abra, and the other is called Kadabra. Abra, Kadabra. And that's an actual phrase, it's an actual name. Listen to this. Webster's Dictionary defines it as a word supposed to have magic powers and hence used in incantations, on amulets, etc., a magic spell or formula. And on the Abra card, it says, using its ability to read minds, it will identify impending danger and teleport the user to safety. The Kadabra character has a pentagram on his forehead.
No, what are you talking about? Juggle. Oh, God, will do.
And he has SSS across his chest. And it is the Satanic SSS. And in my particular sect of Satanism, we didn't have it, but I ran into other groups that did. They had tattoos on the inside of their wrist, over their breasts, or on the inside of their thigh, and it was that same SSS. You know what it stands for? Satan's Solemn Servant. And also, the Kadabra character is always pictured on the card with his left
It has a star on its head, not a pentagram. Okay.
hand giving the satanic salute. And again, I have to ask you, do you think that's on there by coincidence? Do you think they just made
There isn't a satanic salute.
this game and said, hey,
What are
let's
you talking about?
just throw that in there because it looks good? Let's just throw that in there because it makes it look a little more exciting. Or did they put that in there because they know exactly what it means and they want our children to get desensitized to it? They want our children to be able to look at that and actually at one day now, while they're identifying with their favorite Pokemon, reach up and go, hail Pokemon! And what are they actually hailing? Satan. Listen, our kids
The imaginary scenarios these people make up in their heads are so fascinating.
are carrying around these cards like they're magic symbols. And they are taught to believe that they can call on the powers of these cards anytime they want to.
Black's Law Dictionary request? What do you want me to look up?
And I ask you, do you believe that our kids believe they
Bad faith.
have
Okay.
power? Or do you think that, this is just nothing but talk? Because if they don't believe that it has power, why are we seeing time after time after time news
What's my take on this guy? Grifter or true believer? Grifter. Definitely grifter.
clips?
Pretty much everyone doing the ex-Satanist, now I'm going to teach you the secrets of Satanism to Christians thing is always a scam. It is always a scam. Oh. Gotta get to the bees. Bad faith. And Fennikigami with 40 bits says, honestly, I'd expect that fundamentalists would be more opposed to anime because a ton of anime is about kids breaking free of abusive and often conservative families, especially religious ones. One of the most common anime villains are parents. That's why so much anime is about found family. Of major modern anime, FMA, Bleach, and My Hero Academia are pretty much the only ones that aren't mainly about abandoned or massively abused kids. Knowing that would require engaging with the material, and no one who is doing stuff like this is engaging with the material in any meaningful way. They are using surface-level, aesthetic things to frighten gullible evangelical parents.
About our kids beating each other up on school grounds, even stabbing each other over Pokemon
Bad faith, dishonesty of belief, purpose or motive, also termed malefides.
cards. Look at this. Quebec teen stabbed at school over Pokemon cards. This was in Montreal. And this was a 12-year
Yeah, this kind of thing happens. It's not satanic. Kids just stab each other sometimes, which isn't great. But, like, it's not the fault of the Pokemon cards. It could be anything that the kid wanted or was arguing over.
old student that tried to help his younger brother after his younger brother had his Pokemon card deck stolen from him. And he went over to these young men to get the cards back, and one of the boys pulled out a 4-inch knife and stabbed him with it. Look at this. Boy attacks teacher over Pokemon. Here in Lakeland, Florida, there was a young boy who had a deck of Pokemon cards, and he was passing them around the class, and the woman teacher noticed that they were paying more attention to Pokemon than they were her. So she waited for the deck to get back to this young man, and then she walked over and grabbed that deck out of his hand. He got up and struck her dead in the face with his fists.
Again, how could you not understand that this has nothing to do specifically with Pokemon, but that kid clearly has, like, issues going on? It could be anything that was the kid's possession. The point was that they got upset with the teacher over something that they didn't want to happen, and then resorted to violence, right? That's the issue. The Pokemon cards are incidental to the action that is happening.
And of course, he got called in on the principal's carpet in the office, and they called for the parents. And the parents came to pick him up, and you know what he told his father? They were trying to steal my powers.
Okay, I'm gonna hit X to doubt on that one. No one would ever describe Pokemon cards as their powers.
Our kids are taught to believe that these things actually have supernatural ability.
No, they're not. And if your kid believes that, You don't need a college fund. I'll just put it that way.
And that they can call on them anytime they want to because their material states that. In this book, it tells your child, you have the power at your fingertips, so use it. And that's what they're doing. This game is a war designed to attack our children's minds, their very character. And if it gets into our homes, it will wreck family life in one way, shape, or form. This stuff is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft, and it's put in a child's form, designed to attack the child and the parents and the entire family that this thing is associated with. That's exactly what it's designed to do, and that's what it does. Pokemon is a step to bigger and better things in the occult. And I have to wonder sometime when a grade school child is going to do what the Weeping Bell Razor Leaf Pokemon card says. It says this: it spits out poison powder to immobilize the enemy and then finishes the enemy with a spray of acid.
If a kid does that, I'll be impressed they were able to get their hands on acid.
And these cards cost anywhere from $7 to $9 per single pack. And there are report after report of children going into their parents' pocketbook and stealing money to go out and buy these cards.
Again, that has nothing to do with the card specifically. It's about any product that's being shilled to your children to the point that they feel the need to steal to get something. Like, that's a problem. It's not a problem inherent with the content of the Pokemon cards or its lore. It's a problem of advertisement to children.
What is the purpose? What is the magic that's behind the whole game of Pokemon? I think by looking at it in that realm and looking at it the way that we've looked at it, I don't see it as being something that is beneficial to our children. I don't see it as being something that's going to help our family grow. And I sure don't see it as something that's going to help get the child established in the ways of the Lord. This is totally the opposite. Remember that the whole goal in all of these role-playing games, and especially in Pokemon, is to become the master.
He nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Okay, let's see what's next. Here's another... This is another pastor talking about Pokemon.
It's important for the church to deal with issues as they come to the forefront in society. I said, son, what is that one morning? He said, that's Pokemon. Son, I found out that Pokemon means pocket monster. Pokemon, plural, are incredible creatures that share the world with humans. Each has his own fighting abilities. Some grow and evolve into even more powerful creatures. The children are developing relationships with all these Pokemon creatures, little reclusive, power-filled monsters. But
why are you saying they're reclusive? They're all over the place. Why are you just inserting made-up bullshit?
Should they carry these monsters in their pocket? They say the
monsters in my pocket.
Pokemon whole effort is to...
Do you guys remember Monsters in My Pocket?
Train children how to become the #1 Pokemon master in the world. You follow it through the New Age teaching, you find out that masters are those who take control of spirits in the dark realm, and they tell those spirits what to do. The child at some point becomes capable of taking these powers and channeling them through their mind, through their arms, or through their power sources. Their power sources, of course, are many of the symbols that they pick up from the Pokemon paraphernalia. So Pokemon is a game that teaches children how to enter into the world of witchcraft, how to cast spells, how to use psychic phenomena, how to put to work supernatural powers against their enemies, how to fantasy role play. Pokemon world is a world of the demonic, of the satanic. But while you might not take it quite seriously, I assure you that demons take it quite seriously. Satan takes it quite.
Demons fucking love Pokemon. Fenekagami says, not really. The protagonist being abused or abandoned is often one of the first things you learn about them. You usually see it on their Wikipedia articles. It's rarely a twist and often is more surface layer than stuff they do complain about, which has been more deep lore sometimes. It's weird to me that despite evil anime parent being such a meme, I've never once heard these people claim these are series are satanic for making parents look evil. Again, they're not engaging with the, like, they don't know the plot. They do not know the plots of these things. Like, you are assuming they know more than they do about any of the stuff they are talking about.
Seriously. Your children need to know there's a devil, and he hates them, and he wants to ruin their life. There was even a couple of reports where children had been stabbed by other children over Pokemon cards. Do you remember the Dungeons and Dragons game of the 80s where children, young people even ended up killing themselves because it was a role-playing game? Our kids are going out in gangs.
I've never seen a single citation for that claim, but they sure do love to make it.
On the streets, and they're so used to killing each other in their fantasy games and on their video screens and blowing each other away and blowing each other up, that when they walk down the streets and they pull out their .45 and they pump some friend full of bullets, they kind of think in the back of their mind, well, they're just going to, we'll turn off the machine and they'll get up and they'll be there tomorrow and I'll shoot them again.
Again, this isn't how anyone thinks.
It's just a game. To which I respond, Russian roulette is just a game. But they're so into this make-believe world that they can't distinguish between fantasy and real. Listen, I can't stress this enough. How that everything in life is real. Everything.
Gitara with 50-bit says, oh boys, those were the days when we could walk to the local games hobby store and buy a pack of cards. My partner can't buy any of the packs she wants because we have a scalper infestation in our local and online stores. Logan Paul and others like him sort of fucked up the Pokemon trading card scene. I fucking hate scalpers. They ruin everything. Every hobby they get their little grubby fingers into. I've dealt with that in, like, Blu-ray DVD circles too. There's people who do that. There are people who tried to start grading VHS tapes some years back. Luckily that failed, but they were trying to basically jack up the prices of VHS tapes.
I assure you, what your children watch, what you watch, affects you radically. People here today, they can't get saved. Some of you can't go to heaven. What you do with your brain has a direct correlation to where you're going to spend eternity. You know, the media in this country, whether it's, listen, rock music, whether it's the perverted primetime programming and cable programming and the movie industry, whatever, and now the internet.
All right, let's hear why this guy hates Teletubbies.
Thank you. We're gonna continue to carry on our research and our study and look at how the United Satanic Front has been actually getting our children inducted into Satanism and witchcraft worship. And remember that we covered in the last session, we covered in a lot of the things about Pokemon, and we saw that a lot of things in Pokemon we also saw in witchcraft. Now we're going to look at a subject that covers paganism, and it's in the form of a toddler's show, and it's called Teletubbies. Now, the sound, when the children hear this sound on TV, it's time for Teletubbies, it's time for Teletubbies. Hundreds, literally hundreds of toddlers run to their television set, and they plop down in front of that TV set to watch 1 hour of 4 roly-poly creatures go through their everyday routines. And, you know, one of the things that I did is I actually sat there and...
Oh, he's definitely gonna do the Tinky Winky is gay thing. There's no way he doesn't, right?
And well, I had to actually make myself watch it. But I actually sat there and watched about 4 or 5 of these shows. And
he watched 4 or 5, so he fundamentally understands the entire show.
Thing that appeared to me the most and really stuck out the most in my mind was this one thing. There were no mommy and daddy Teletubbies in the movie. The
Teletubbies are adults, right? I guess I haven't seen Teletubbies since I was quite young, but like, They're not children, are they? I don't think they're supposed to be children. They're just like a weird thing. I don't know what they are. They're different species. They're Teletubbies. I don't know. I don't think they're children. Fenekagami says, I personally love how when Mr. Beast and Logan Paul tried to join the One Piece community and immediately got gatekeeped out as obvious grifters. They whined so much about the community being toxic, but honestly, OP fans hating rich people is one of the most based and red-pilled things about the OP community.
Program. They're never presented that way. In fact,
this is what the Teletubbies are in his head. I'm scared to see what this is going to be. It's pretty good. Good for that artist. That's ominous. I like that.
we're told that these are babies, high-tech babies.
Are they babies? Like, I guess I never considered the Teletubbies babies. They're just like a weird species of like weird creatures.
Now remember that I told you
just kind of bumble around and make noises. I don't know.
it doesn't make any difference what I say, it's what their own material says. Well, I brought with me tonight actually a statement by Ann Wood, and this is their creator at British Broadcasting Company, because this thing started out as being a BBC production, British Broadcasting Company, and then America picked it up with PBS and started putting it on PBS. And Ann Wood says this: they are babies, technological babies.
What about the Oogie Loves? I'm not familiar with them. Does anyone remember the Doodle Bops?
Like children, they all...
We're the Doodle Bops. We're the Doodle Bops, and we've come to save the day. We're the Doodle Bops.
Also imitate what they hear, so they will attempt to speak like the narrator and sometimes like the voice trumpets. The Teletubby world is a full of pretty flowers, rabbits, warm hugs, and high-tech marvels, but it's also completely void of parental guidance. And the one thing that's the mystery about the whole show is that your toddler sits in front of the TV watching these roly-poly creatures that look like aliens, and the whole mystery is to find out or to try to figure out which one of the Teletubbies television screens, because that's why they're called Teletubbies, they have a television screen in their stomach, which one of those Teletubby creatures will actually be the one that a clip about children will actually show on that television screen. And you notice one thing that you'll see is if you'll watch that program that every one of those clips are about children.
You had repressed knowledge of the Doodle Bops. How dare you bring that back to me? For anyone uninitiated, I gotta show you the Doodle Bops. They creep me the fuck out. Doodle Bops. And I'm talking about the... Oh, not Bob. This was the fucking Doodle Bops. I can't play much of this, but there they are in their creepy ass outfits. Anyway, fuck the Doodle Bops.
No parents.
Saitam says, just to make sure everyone feels old, and then there's a link. Oh yeah, the Teletubby Sun Baby has welcomed her own baby girl. Jesus Christ. We're all dying every moment.
In those clips either. So what are they actually saying? Well, when you look at the program, it looks innocent enough. But I want to point out something to you. I want to point out a couple of things here, first, before we get started. Number one, the most prevalent actual character in that program is a baby-faced son. And I mean, this son actually has an animated baby's face.
It's not animated! How is he getting so much wrong about the show? It's not an animated baby head, it's a baby head composited onto the fucking sun.
And every time that the Teletubbies do something that the son likes, it'll smile at him, grin, giggle. But every time that they do something that it doesn't like, it'll frown at him as if it's really getting angry. And it seems to put fear in the Teletubbies.
Under the despotic rule of the baby sun head.
At some points...
Don't anger the baby head, Teletubbies. You know what happens next.
In the program, the Teletubbies will even rebel and the sun gets really angry, and also around the sun, it starts to really glow. In other words, like the flames around that sun start to get hotter, as if he's really getting mad and angry. The other thing is that out of the ground comes what's called a voice trumpet. In other words, this trumpet comes up out of the ground. It's actually a voice horn that comes up out of the ground, and it announces everything that the Teletubbies are to do. It's time to play. It's time to eat. It's time to sleep. It's time to go. Everything that they do is announced and directed by that voice trumpet. Not a mother and dad, not grandparents, not aunts and uncles, no parental guidance whatsoever. But yet we're told that these are babies. Remember, Ann Wood said these are high-tech babies. And Andy Davenport, he's the scriptwriter for this program, says this: children are the same the world over. They grow, they learn language, they learn to talk, to think the same wherever they grow up. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't particularly believe that particular statement. And the reason for that is, if I don't want my child believing the same thing that another child believes in another country if they're serving a different God.
Nothing about like the fundamental human connection between all of us and how we're not that different. No, just you're gonna shit on other people's religious beliefs despite yours being batshit insane. Okay. Weird xenophobia.
Or if they're going against parental authority, or if they're going against any kind of guidance whatsoever, I don't want my child thinking the same as that child. She also goes on to say that we have to quit bogging down our children with values and morals and standards to the point to where they don't understand or that they feel out of place. Now, these characters are actually actors in costumes.
They didn't get the real Teletubbies? Those bastards.
And they are taught to walk like toddlers, talk like toddlers, play like toddlers, even eat like toddlers, so that your toddler watching them will identify with them.
So actors acting, it's gotta be demonic.
And so everything that they watch these Teletubby toddlers do, now that becomes their role model, and they try to imitate that. And I don't know if you have children that watch Teletubbies or not, but I mean, when they're glued to that TV set, you can talk to them. They don't hear a word you're saying. It's almost like they're mesmerized. That's their favorite ones. You hear them giggle and laugh and everything else, and mom and dad sit there and go, oh, that's such a good program because, you know, it keeps my child entertained. Sure, it's entertainment. But don't we know that witchcraft is also entertaining? And lovable alien-like creatures, now these are played again by real people, and Teletubbies, in Teletubby land, everything is supplied for them. Not by moms and dads, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. Everything is supplied by them by this baby-faced son and by this voice trumpet. In fact, they have Teletubby custard, they have Teletubby toast, and there's even a...
Everything's provided for them. It's the Teletubby domestication.
A comical vacuum cleaner named Nunu. And it goes around and makes the Teletubbies laugh. And so it looks real innocent. And the Teletubbies may be fantasy creatures in a fantasy world, but young toddlers pick up everything that they do. In other words, they watch that and they identify with that. And in his book, All of Our Children Learning, Dr. Benjamin Bloom, the father of outcome-based education,
Just a Peach with a $1 tip says, wow, toddlers don't understand that adults aren't just disembodied voice when they're not looking at them. They are learning through someone that they understand.
States this: the purpose of education in the schools is to
help control the Teletubby population, have your Teletubbies spayed or neutered.
Change the thoughts, feelings, and actions of students. Now think about that for a minute. Just stop and think about what that statement just said. Now let's turn that around and listen to what it says to you individually. The purpose of education and the schools is to change the thoughts, feelings, and actions of my child. Where are those thoughts and actions supposed to be changed? At home, not the schools. We don't want the schools changing the thoughts and feelings of our children. That's what makes them special.
Engaging in real life is going to change your children's thoughts and feelings. That's a thing that's supposed to happen as you interact with the world and learn more about it. You're actively stifling your children's development by trying to shelter them in your own little weird echo chamber of selective entertainment.
Special. That's what makes them unique.
H. Baird says, help... Oh, I read that. Sorry.
You know, I don't want my child to come home and say, oh, I can't.
Did I see ICE is going to be stationed at airports now? Weirdly, this is going to be bad, but at least there'll be more public videos of ICE doing fucked up shit, and more people are going to be directly interfacing with them. Like, how do I explain this? I think a lot of Americans, as long as it's not something that interferes with them, they don't give a shit. But, like, a lot of people travel, whether it be for work or vacation or whatever, and if a lot of people every day are having to interact with these terrible fucking people, I do kind of hope it'll spread the awareness of how fucked up ICE is, but we'll see. But, Fennikagami says, I love when they admit that their religion is boring as shit, so they constantly struggle to keep people's attention. It's so funny how often fundamentalists will low-key insult their own religion when they're warning about their other beliefs. Like how they dismiss science by calling it a religion.
Can't laugh at it.
Well, you see, they don't have a religion. They have a personal relationship with Jesus.
Because I learned in school that's against.
Chitara says, I'm surprised conservatives didn't start a new satanic panic against Etsy, considering that the witches on there were capable of doing to their favorite small-faced debate bro.
It's authority. You know, that's.
I hope that group of witches started charging more.
Sort of thing. So I don't want the schools, and I'm sure you don't want the schools, actually taking over and doing that. But how many know that that's exactly what the school system has done? In fact, a book we're going to talk about a little later, Harry Potter, there are many, many schools who are now requiring that for required reading in elementary.
I don't think I've ever heard of a single school making Harry Potter required reading. It was in our libraries at public school once I left the Baptist school, but, like, it was never required reading.
Schools. And it's nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft. So when we look at this thing, again, on the surface, it looks real enticing because it's entertaining. And the Teletubby world is the best attempt to touch preschoolers with the seeds of this New Age ideology. Because now you start to see that we have man-made gods because we have the sun. Okay, and in any pagan culture, the sun has always been worshipped as a god.
That's not true. You think every pagan culture is sun worship? What in the world?
And example, winter solstice on December 19th, 1991. And now, I actually have the pamphlet that they sent out, and here's what it is. And on December 19th, 1991, a public elementary school in Portland, Oregon, replaced their traditional Christmas party with a solstice festival. And here's what their printed program was entitled, Celebrate the Return of the Light. And it pictured the sun god and the moon goddess. Who is the moon goddess? We talked about that the last session, Diana. She's the goddess of the moon, and she's the highest witchcraft god. Okay?
Benigagami says, ICE being at airports will just make ICE even more hated than they already are. The TSA was probably the most hated part of the government outside of the IRS, and now ICE is going to be the TSA. It's amazing not to mention ICE can't man polling stations or invade cities if they're busy with airports.
And it said, pictured the sun god and the moon goddess.
I really hope they don't let the ICE agents have their guns in the airport. But I think we all know they're going to have their guns in the airport.
And here's what the events read. Listen to this. Each student will partake of the sun and moon cake before entering the auditorium, where they will seat themselves according to their astrological signs. Chanting will begin. Then it goes on to say, the sun god and moon goddess will enter with attendants, and then dancers and drummers will enter. Barcode children and animal spirits. You can I only leave that to your imagination as to what that barcode children are.
I'm assuming these people believe that the barcode is the mark of the beast.
And then he says, it goes on, and the last one on there, it says, dancing in a circle together, feel free to hoop and holler. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that's pagan occult. And all the symbols that they have in there, the sun, the moon, those are all pagan symbols, and those are all occult symbols. We examined that. So we need to examine the official description of each Teletubby to find out exactly where it is. Now, first we're going to look at, this is Poe, okay, on the screen here. This is Poe, and it's the smallest Teletubby.
H. Baird with 40-bit says, I had to travel a few weeks after 9/11 when they had the National Guard in airports and their rifles. I'm pretty sure I had lunch in the most well-defended food court that's ever existed.
And this is a girl. And she often jumps, and she jumps up and down to express her feelings of joy and enthusiasm and surprise. And the natural place for her to be is on her scooter going over the hills. So this is Poe, and she also makes a noise. She'll say quickly, 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 or slowly, slowly, slowly. And she also spends a lot of time on her own, again, away from parental authority or any kind of guidance from parents. Okay? So, first of all, this is Poe.
Probably not, Ashley, because she's still not, like, anti-gay or anything.
Now, I want you to notice that each Teletubby, remember we said that each Teletubby has a screen on their stomach. A television screen. Well, in order for you to be able to show a clip or for them to be able to show any kind of an image on that television screen, there has to be a receiver. And so the antenna on top of the head becomes that receiver. And isn't it odd that each one of these Teletubbies have a different antenna? In fact, my question was,
why is that weird? It's to differentiate the characters.
Why don't they all have the same antenna? In other words, if these are all babies, they all come from the same place, and they all seem to be basically in a Teletubby family, all of their own, then why don't they have the same antenna?
Why don't you have the same haircut as everyone else? They're different characters. It's a character design thing. But, like, why would they all look identical? They're not twins or quadruplets or whatever. Why would they look identical? That would be lazy character design.
Why are all those antennas different? Now, these symbols are simple shapes. But if you'll also remember, in the last session, we said that the circle represented the female womb. And in pagan cultures, it's also a powerful symbol of female serpentine power. In other words, fertility. And you notice on there that it also it symbolizes a spiritized mother goddess, because that's also in paganism referred to as the earth.
Okay, so you can't use a circle anymore. Write that down. No more circles, or you're going to upset this guy.
Symbolizing the earth. And to contemporary pagans and radical feminists, it's one of the primary feminine signs. So that
Radical feminists.
That's Poe, the littlest one, and the one with the antenna with the circle. Now keep that one in mind. The next one we're going to look at is called Dipsy. We'll go back to that one. This is
That is the most ominous picture of Dipsy. It looks like a true crime photo. Like this is the last image of ever of them before they were found dead 3 days later.
Dipsy. And now you'll notice
Dipsy was never seen again.
Dipsy has a different antenna, and I'm going to pull that down just a little bit so you can see the top of that. And you'll notice that when it comes up, it doesn't come up to a fine point, and it doesn't come up and round off. It comes up here, comes into a curve, and then rounds off again, clearly a phallic symbol.
And Daisy, will you tell us what man represents in his purest form? Yes.
Phallic symbol, phallic symbol.
If you'll look at that real close, you'll see the phallic symbol.
This man is in front of a crowd full of people that are hanging on his every word, and he needs to impart to them that they need to notice this Teletubby head dick. You can... Talk about giving head, am I right?
It looks like a phallus. And in every pagan culture, the rod has always represented a phallus.
You know what Sigmund Freud said? Sometimes a Teletubby is just a Teletubby.
And that is a powerful symbol for male fertility. Pagan cultures, even on the Celtic fertility symbols, they have a holiday called Beltane, and a May Day, the maypole, symbolized by male power. That's exactly what this represents. Now, the interesting thing about Dipsy is that when you start to look at it, this is the second biggest Teletubby, and he's also known for his distinctive steps and way of saying hello. So again, now this is going
Profane Priestess says, I'm polyamorous queer woman and have never thought about cock as straight white right-wingers.
to really appeal to your toddler.
Or you never think about cock as much as straight right-wingers. There we go. Or
Dipsy,
white, yeah.
Poe. Then we look at the third one. And this is Lala. And if you look at Lala, this is the second smallest Teletubby. And she's by far the happiest and the most smiley of all the Teletubbies. And she loves to dance. And she loves to sing. And her favorite
I don't recognize that line,
word is
Zytam.
nice. But now we start to look at the antenna on Lala, and look what's happened. Here we have the male symbol, or I'm sorry, the female symbol of the circle, and it doesn't just break off and go separate, it goes from the female symbol right into the male phallic symbol.
Oh my god, is he gonna say that this Teletubby is intersex? Let's go! Fennikagami says, question, my guy, does this mean we should interpret spare the rod, spoil the child to mean father should be hitting their... Oh, yeah, you're stopping for Hannah's sake. That's literally where I started to stop, too. I was gonna stop reading that if you didn't.
So you'll look at that, and you see as it comes up, it curves around, forms the circle, and then comes up and forms the rod. And now again at the top, when you see this, you can see clearly that it looks like a phallus. Then we come to the last one, the fourth one, and the fourth one is the most interesting of all. And you don't know how hard it is to say the names of these little things, because I mean I had to sit there and watch these things. Okay, so this is Tinky Winky. I said it. Okay, Tinky Winky.
Again, he's got to bring dicks into it.
And he's by far the most biggest Teletubby, and he's the gentlest of the Teletubbies.
As the largest Teletubby, why does Tinky Winky not simply eat the other Teletubbies?
In fact, he's so gentle, he has everything in a bag. And you know, the one thing that I noticed about, and in the episode that I watched on this...
Are they going to somehow say his head triangle and try and connect it to the, like, pink gay triangle that's been... Yeah, is he gonna do the thing?
He loves wearing a smaller, little white ballet skirt. And he loves to dance in a white tutu or ballet skirt. And I looked at that and I said, what in the world is that supposed to represent? And then it dawned on me because I looked up here and I saw this antenna.
He's so doing it. He's so going to go
that
there.
When we saw in the last session, we looked at the occult symbols, we looked at the pagan symbols, and we said the triangle was a representation of earth, wind, and fire, the basic elements of all witchcraft. We also said that it was a powerful spell-casting symbol. But if you notice this now, we have a triangle that's pointing down, and the triangle is in multiple forms. And it's pictured in alchemy as a sexual rite. In fact, in Buddhism, it's referred to as a sex sign.
I'm actually shocked at how much he's able to sexualize the Teletubbies. Like, I think there isn't a... Is there a group of characters more, like, sexless than the Teletubbies? Like, they're just, like... In no way should your brain go to anything sexual when you see the Teletubbies. And yet, here we are. Somehow he's applied it.
And isn't it strange that the gay and lesbian community have now taken the upside-down triangle as their logo, their symbol. And they've also adopted the color purple, which is the color that Tinky Winky is. And then it dawned
Since when is the color purple a gay color?
on me, that's why he dances in a ballet skirt. I know it sounds funny, but I mean, you look at this thing and, you know, it looks real innocent, but when you look at it on the, on the surface, it looks really fun and it looks really, you know, like, oh, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just cute. But when you look underneath of what they're really trying to say, Marilyn Ferguson, the author of The Aquaric Conspiracy, a New World Order blueprint for changing people's perception, she states this, listen to this. In order to teach children of tomorrow a new perception of reality, we must make symbols and their evolving and politically correct meanings more fun and familiar than the home-taught words, values, and meanings. And so now what they're saying is they're teaching your toddler through symbols. And if you go even further, Andy Davenport, the scriptwriter, goes further to say that we've been bogging down our toddlers and our young people with all these values and morals and standards for too long, making them feel out of place if they're in a different environment. And then he goes on to state what that different environment is. Listen to this. He says that if a child grows up in a home where mom is a woman and dad is another woman.
That would be two moms, sir. That would be two moms. Neener is meaner. Thanks for 41 months.
That we should teach them that it's okay.
It is.
And if a child grows up in a home where dad is a man and mom is another man,
again, that's two dads.
that it's okay. That we can't let them feel out of place. That we have to teach them that this is a different symbol and that everything is the way it should be, and that that kind of value and that kind of standard should be looked at as being acceptable.
It is.
And okay. And so what is the true message behind Teletubbies, these roly-poly creatures that our toddlers watch? That gay is okay.
That's an insane interpretation of Teletubbies, and I love it.
Now we start to see that these things are taken on a different light. Now we start to see that they have actually found a way to make evil look cute and take God's principles and make them look ridiculous. And that's what they're trying to...
I think you're kind of making, quote, God's principles look ridiculous. You're spending hours of time dissecting children's media incorrectly.
...portray to our toddlers. So next time your toddler sits in front watching Teletubbies...
By the way, we're a little over halfway through the stream. Let me do my little calls to action. If you're on YouTube, do me a favor and like the stream. Hit the thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. You can also support the show using memberships, super chats, subs, and bits.
Remember that there's a message being portrayed to him or her, and it's not a good one. Remember that the message is gay is okay. And lifestyle learning back in 1973, this lifelong process of socialization, they said it would start soon after birth with community training sessions for parents, and then they're supposed to teach the parents how to teach their children. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go to a class where I feel like if I'm a parent, I don't need to go to a class for somebody to teach me how to be a parent.
That's terrible advice. Why? You think you already know everything? You don't think that there's any knowledge any other human beings might have from their experience being a parent that you could learn from? That is a profoundly ignorant statement. He's proud to be ignorant. That's bizarre. Nemesaur, thanks for gifting 10 Tier 1 subs. Thank you so much.
And I know a lot of parents out there don't feel that way either. But this is this new schooling that's coming about. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, it's on the rise. Because if you don't think that witchcraft, paganism, and Satanism is on the rise, you need to open up your eyes. I believe, and this is my own opinion, but I believe
Stone Corbell, thanks for gifting 5 Tier 1 subs and kicking off a hype train. If you want to help the hype train get higher, you can always gift subs or use bits or become a subscriber yourself. And it's a community train, it looks like, so I think you'll get extra emotes the higher the level is.
believe that the New Age religion, or the new religion when the Antichrist comes into power, is not going to be a New Age movement at all. In fact, it's not even going to be a...
Baja says, surprised this guy is all right with having long hair given how into strict gender roles he is. See, if he wants to do something, it's fine. It's when other people want to do something that he doesn't like that there's a problem.
worship back of nature.
Hydrate, will do.
I believe that the new religion is going to be the old religion, and it's going to be prevalent upon the earth, and it's going to be nothing more than return to witchcraft, the practice of magic and symbols. Because see, we're all grounded in symbols.
Unstable Deadbeat with 100 bits says, isn't what he doing right now kind of teaching people how to parent by instructing them on not letting their kids watch these shows? Shh, let the hypocrisy happen.
Now,
It's a part of the evangelicalism or the fundamentalism.
I've seen witchcraft packaged in many different ways, but never so cleverly as this one. This is Harry Potter.
Why are all of his images so blurry?
And this is the book right here. And this is the first book that was out. Now, Harry Potter, actually, this is a craze that came out just before this last Christmas. In fact, just before Christmas 1999. And it amazed me that I was seeing more reports that children were asking for this book and the series in this book more than they were asking for toys. And I thought,
Imagine thinking that's bad. Of course, now with hindsight, we know J.K. Rowling is a bad person. But, like, think back then, when you knew nothing about any of her bad opinions, right? Kids reading a book and wanting to read a book is a good thing. Like, how could you possibly be like, oh no, my children want to read a fiction book?
that's kind of unusual. Because here, the Christmas before, the biggest thing was what? Furbies. Everybody had to have one. Okay? There, one time, you know, it's...
Are Furbies still a thing? Have they brought Furbies back?
how Christmas goes. One time it might be Power
Feels like with AI bullshit, feels like Furbies are gonna come back and have some AI chat GPT bullshit in them.
Rangers, and your child has to have one because everybody's got one. And then there might be Pokemon because every other kid's got one now. And now it's gone to Harry Potter. And what we need to do is we need to look at Harry Potter, because I want to tell you something. This is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft put in the form of a child's book. And if your child reads this book, he is receiving a curse. And if you read this book to your child, he or she is receiving a curse. Because I want to tell you,
Everything I don't like is cursed. Just a Peach says, so people are telling them that toddlers can't understand the 10 Commandments and instead teach them age-appropriate things. He's so mad about it. It's so weird that he's so proud of being and making bad parents. Fundamentalist's gonna fundamentalist. Minute left on the hype train.
tell you something. The spells that are in this book are very real spells. They're not something somebody came up
They're not. They're not. Magic isn't real. Sir, you are an adult. Magic isn't real.
with. This is written actually
It's
by
often fun to pretend in fiction or in play that magic is fun, but it's not real. It's a fictional thing.
a British authoress
M. Scheffler with 100 bits says, saving throw.
named J.K. Rowling. And J.K. Rowling is a professed witch in
No,
England.
she's not.
She wrote these books, and she said that she sees things through her mind's eye. And how many know that's a New Age concept? Remember about
Imagination is a New Age concept?
supposedly having a psychic eye in the middle of your forehead, and you're supposed to be able to see into the psychic world and receive all kinds of...
That's not what mind's eye means. It means your imagination. You're thinking of the term third eye, which is a New Age word. M. Schaffler with 50 bits says, ma'am, that was a question. Why? I don't understand. What's saving throw for what? I'm confused. Thanks for the hype train, everyone, by the way. Fenekagami says they have to believe magic is real because otherwise what would be the point of prayer? I guess that's true.
Information and things of supernatural ability to be able to share those things with others through your mind's eye. She says she sees things through her mind's eye and then writes them down, and that's how she came up with this book and this character.
That's how writing works. The train. The train ended.
Harry Potter. Now, she also goes on to say that she was going to actually write 4 books and then stop. She actually had the plan for 4 books. But then she said that she had such a popularity rise in the books of Harry Potter when the very first one came out that she said that she decided to do a 7-book series. And there are 3 books now that have been released and are actually published and out on the market right now. And there are 4 more to come. And now I just read about a week ago in a magazine, she was doing an interview with a magazine, in fact it was Life magazine. She said that the 4 to come were going to be even darker than the first. So there's 4 more to come, praise God.
The first is not very dark at all.
We're looking for them, aren't we? Now, the interesting thing about this...
They're actually Magic the Gathering Furby cards? That's kind of hilarious. Oh god, the tormenting voice one is horrifying.
is if you go into bookstores looking for Harry Potter, good luck. Because most of the time they're sold out. They're that popular. And what we need to do is we need to look at...
H-Baird with 40 bits says, I've read an ancient Greek magic book with, quote, real spells. They generally involve lots of animal parts and praying to a particular god every morning at sunrise for a set number of days. Most spells are things like, this will make you have lots of confidence, and other placebo effect things. Though there were a number of invisibility spells, I kind of wonder how they never got called out on that. It makes you invisible, but only when no one else is watching. There are truly horror Furby cards. Oh god, they're even worse. Oh god. Okay, well, I'm disturbed.
Harry Potter and see exactly what this is. So let's examine Harry Potter and the story of Harry Potter. Now, this is actually the second cover of the book. What you're seeing up here, this book is actually the first cover that was printed in the United States. But the first cover, the actual first cover, was actually printed in England. And what they did was they actually changed the cover because the British people were putting up an uproar, and they said that they didn't want that cover on their book because these right here, where you see the diamond shapes, were actually pentagrams. And so there was something about that allowed the British people to see there was something...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's total bullshit, to be honest with you. I don't think that that's true.
Wrong about it. The other thing is that the very first book was called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
And they thought Americans were too stupid to know what a Philosopher's Stone is, or what a philosopher is.
Then all of a sudden they changed it to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And now, if you'll look at there, you'll see all kinds of symbology. Take a look at Harry Potter, and you'll see the lightning bolt in the P. And we also stated in the last session that the lightning bolt was a symbol of Satan. Okay? So Harry Potter...
Wannabe says, I found that Buckaroo Banzai Blu-ray, but it had the Iron Giant DVD in it. Now I need to find the movie itself. I think my ex played a trick on me, as most of the cases have different movies in them. That was a nasty thing to do to a collection of around 1,000 movies. Oh, that would be so frustrating. That would be incredibly frustrating.
...in the Sorcerer's Stone. And now you see, over in this corner...
Would I prefer Doctor Who Magic the Gathering cards? I've seen these, actually. When these came out, I saw them because they were posted on the Doctor Who subreddit.
Demon dogs. Over down in here is a unicorn. There are several symbols because if you look closely in those pillars, if you could actually see them close up, you'll see faces in those pillars. And at the top here, okay, there's your triangles, and they've even got the triangles into here. And Harry is riding on a broomstick. And the premise of the story is this. Harry Potter is a boy who's a 12-year-old who his parents are
10-year-old.
Killed in a car.
In the first book, he just turns 10, I believe. Hagrid brings him a cake.
Accident. And Harry survives that car accident. He was with his parents at a very, very, very young age. And now
Was he turning 11? Okay, my bad.
He's an orphan, and he's sent over to England to live with his aunt and uncle, who are...
He's not sent over to England. He's from the UK. Does he assume every book protagonist must be born in the United States?
are horrible to him. In fact, they treat him like a nobody. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to read for you right off the book itself, because that'll help support what it is. Listen to this. Harry Potter has never played a sport while flying on a broomstick. He's never worn a cloak of invisibility, befriended a giant, or helped hatch a dragon. All Harry knows is a miserable life with the Dursleys, his horrible aunt and uncle, and their abominable son, Dudley. Harry's room is a tiny closet at the foot of the stairs, and he hasn't had a birthday party in 11 years. But all that is about to change when a mysterious letter arrives, a letter with an invitation to a wonderful place he never dreamed existed. There he finds not only friends, aerial sports, and magic around every corner, but a great destiny that's been awaiting him, if Harry can survive the encounter. Now, Harry is a nobody. He's living with his aunt and uncle, the Dursleys, and they have an abominable son named Dudley. And Dudley treats him like...
Does he mean abominable?
He's an outcast, doesn't accept him in part of the family at all. But Harry knows there's something about him that's very special. And he receives an invitation in the book. He receives an invitation by a giant that comes knocking on the door one day.
Half giant.
And Harry opens up the door, and the giant has a message for him in the form of a letter. And you know what? It's an invitation that he join something. You know what that is? Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft.
Witchcraft and wizardry.
And so Harry thinks, gee, why did I receive this invitation? I must be important. I must be special. And so Harry runs off from his aunt and uncle's home. He jumps aboard a train, and he goes to Hogwarts School of Wizardry and Witchcraft.
You make it sound like he's like a drifter that just found a random train and got aboard.
Where he learns how to cast spells, how to summon spirits, how to do hexes, how to form symbols. And you know what? So does your child.
When in the world does he summon spirits in the first book? What are you talking about?
Because as I said before...
The closest thing I can even think to that is in the later books when he summons his Patronus, but it's not like... It's not what he's claiming.
Are the things that are in this book.
Actually, only the third book had come out at this point. No, the Patronus first appears in the third book, right? Maybe he's referencing that? I don't know.
Are in actual witchcraft books. This is in the form of a children's book. And you know what gives Harry his specialty? Harry was born, he was special, and he wonders why he receives that invitation. And Hogwarts begins to tell him why he was so special.
Hogwarts begins to tell him?
Special enough to receive
Is he confusing Hagrid with Hogwarts?
the invitation to join his school. He tells Harry that Harry was in that accident, and that accident, by the way, the accident that killed his parents was a form of a lightning bolt coming down and destroying the car that they were in.
What? That's not even, what are you talking about? The car accident was a cover that the Dursleys said to tell Harry so they didn't tell him that he was... Voldemort killed them in their house. Voldemort killed them. What are you talking about? Have you read the book? That does not happen in the book. There was no car accident. That was a cover story. His parents were murdered by Voldemort, and the love of his mom basically cast a thing. I don't want to... Do I care about spoilers? Do I give a fuck about spoilers? Part of Voldemort's soul gets, like, put into Harry, and he's a Horcrux. There's no car accident. There's no lightning bolt except for the shape of the scar. Whew, okay. Sweet Lily Love says, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I believe JK stole the idea from Harry Potter from this game. Spellcasting 101, sorcerers get all the girls. You know, maybe you're on to something. I'm not so sure, though.
Blowing it up. But Harry survived. But he was also born and received from that accident a particular scar on his forehead. Look here. That's the scar right there on his forehead. Do you know what it is? A purple lightning bolt on his forehead.
Do they ever say it's purple?
So now that's what makes...
I haven't read the book since I was a kid, but I know that's not a thing in the movies. But I don't remember, did they ever say it was purple as a kid?
him special because with Harry's purple scar on his head, he now has psychic abilities.
No? Okay, he's just making shit up again. Wow, he should stop lying. That would be great.
And he's able to do things that other people aren't able to do. And he knows things that other people shouldn't know.
I mean, not really. He's a wizard, but the scar itself doesn't give him, like, powers. The closest thing to that is the fact that he's able to speak parcel tongue. But, like, that's about it.
He knew things before, but he didn't know why. Now he's seen as very special. And you notice how that appeals to the child, because now the child begins to identify with Harry. How often is you talk about a child, and how often has a child mentioned about, gee, I just want to run away. Mom and Dad have strict rules too. I just want to run away. So he starts associating with Harry because they can identify with that. And it makes it look as if you want to be a somebody, you can be just like Harry Potter. You can become a wizard too. There are a lot of books on the market about witchcraft, but I'm telling you, this is the one that's packaged in the latest form of a children's book.
Benigagami says, Salen Conrad has a whole video on the likely places Rowling stole everything in her books from. Oh, and there's a video. Okay, I'll check that out later.
And the thing about it is that now a lot of parents are starting to read these books to their children, and now they're even getting into the story of Harry Potter. I'll tell you a true story. I was on the plane to Dallas. It's kind of a funny story because, I mean, this is actually true. This is actually true. I was at the plane.
Oh, I definitely believe it happened now.
And getting ready to leave Dallas to go to Corpus Christi, which was about 45 minutes to an hour flight. And it was one of those twin-engine planes. And we went out to the bus. I mean, the bus took us out to the plane, and we sat there. We sat there. And we sat there. And we sat there because there was no crew. And they kept radioing back, we ought to have a crew.
Harry isn't psychic, but this guy sounds psychotic. Agreed.
Somebody needs to fly the plane. We're supposed to leave. Oh, we were supposed to leave 30 minutes ago. And they radioed back saying, well, the crew's here, we just don't know where they are. True. So the crew's here, we just don't know where they are. So we're starting to, make jokes about, well, I better go look in the bar somewhere. They might be in there. But I looked over, and right away from me there was a lady sitting here, an older lady, and then there was a younger lady, probably in her 20s, that was sitting on the other side of her. And the way they talked, I could only gather that was her daughter. The younger one was her daughter. But she was sitting there reading this hardback book. And I kept looking at that book because it looked familiar. But I couldn't place it. And I kept trying to get a good look at it, and I couldn't. And so she took it with her on the plane. Finally, the crew came out after about 45 minutes that we were supposed to take off. The crew finally came out, and after we told them, you know, to send them through a breathalyzer, you know, make sure before they got behind the wheel of that plane, you know, we took.
Benny Kagami says, see, this is the kind of parental fear-mongering that I expected this guy to do with anime. Heck, he didn't even make Ash sound like a runaway for leaving home at 10, younger than Harry.
Off, and we got to Corpus Christi, and I still kept all the way down the.
It is a little weird that in the Pokemon world at 10, you can just, like, go and travel across the country on your own. That's like a normal thing.
Flight, I kept trying to get a look at her. She was sitting right in front of me. But the chair was so high, I couldn't get a look at the book. I kept trying to look around, but I couldn't get a good chance at it.
Wow, this guy can't mind his own business. That's kind of weird.
And so I said, I said, there's just something about that book that I recognize, but I can't place it. And when we landed in Corpus Christi, she got out, and she got ready to take off her seatbelt, and she stood up to get her things out of the overhead storage bin, and she put the book down on the seat. So, of course, I raise up and look down, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And it was amazing that somebody of her caliber and somebody of her age would be reading Harry Potter.
She could be reading the book to see if she wants her kid to be able to read it. A lot of people will do stuff like that to keep an eye on what their kids are putting in their media diet. Could just be someone that likes to read kids' books every now and again, or tween fiction. There are still people who do that as adults. There's nothing wrong with that. Phoenix2250, thanks for 42 months, says happy anniversary to me. Indeedly do.
Because I'm sitting there going, why in the world is she reading Harry Potter? This is a children's book. But again, the mysterious thing about this is now parents are starting to get into the story of Harry Potter. Not only are their kids identifying with Harry Potter,
I'd like to go back in time and show this guy footage of Harry Potter adults at the Harry Potter Land at Universal Studios and see him have an aneurysm.
but the parents are too.
Like, I don't even like Harry Potter these days for obvious reasons, but I'd like to see him be upset specifically.
And at grieving, I've had ladies come up and tell me, Christian women come up and tell me, at about 5 different cities that I've been to so far on the tour. And I mean, they have tears in their eyes. And I said, what's wrong? And they said, well, you remember when you talked about Harry Potter? And I said, yes. And they said, our children are being required to read that at their school. Required reading. And you sit there and you go, what in the world is going on? Librarians think it's great.
Librarians?
Parents
starting to think this man might not be very well read.
Think it's great because now little Billy for the first time is reading a book. Little Sally has never shown any interest in any kind of literature at all. Praise the Lord. She's spending about 6 hours to 8 hours a day reading Harry Potter. Isn't it wonderful? Sure it is. It's witchcraft. It's exciting. And your children begin to identify with Harry. And the darker that it gets in the story, the more they start to identify with Harry. Take a look at the picture again. Look really close and look and see if you see other symbols in here.
H. Baird says, wait, they came up to him with tears in their eyes? Was this an evangelical thing at that Pendejo Naranja stole? I don't know who that is. I failed.
This is more of a blown up type version of that. On the hardback book, it actually shows the stars even better. I don't know whether the camera can zoom in on that close enough or not. On the hardback book, it actually shows it better. And the stars on this are actually
oh, it's Trump, okay.
Inverted. The stars on this are actually inverted. So what it means is that it shows satanic symbols right there on the cover of the book. And you think that's by coincidence? Absolutely not. They know what they're doing. J.K. Rowling knows what she's doing. Because remember, she's a professed witch. Here's the second book. It's called Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, audience, what has Satan always been symbolized as? Serpent, right? Now, how many see the serpents in the cover on this book? How many see the one wrapped around the pole here? There's one here, one down in this cave, one here coming out. How many see the one in the pole over here? There's the head, there's the eye wrapped around that pole. Here's Harry Potter, bless his heart. Now you can see his purple lightning bolt scar right there on his forehead.
Not purple.
It's what gives him his ability, his psychic ability.
He doesn't have psychic ability. He doesn't have psychic ability. Harry Potter does not have psychic ability. What in the world? Wannabe says, my son was required to read it, but not by the school, but by the English teacher. Too late, he already had one of the few hundreds in English.
And Harry is holding on to a phoenix, which is a mythical bird and a big symbol of reincarnation. And you notice it's called And the Chamber of Secrets. In this story, now Harry discovers the secret of it all. And listen to what it is.
Oh God, what is he gonna...
Harry discovers that his parents' murder, because it wasn't an accident at all, his parents' murder was caused by an evil wizard called Lord Voldemort. Parents' murder was caused by an evil wizard called Lord Voldemort.
Okay, so he learned that in the first book, to be clear. He knew that in the first book. That's not a revelation in the second book. Also, he mispronounced Voldemort pretty bad.
And Lord Voldemort now is after Harry because Harry is destined to become a very powerful wizard. And Lord Voldemort wants to be the very best powerful wizard. And
it's not even like real Voldemort in the second one that fights him. It's like the weird journal Horcrux Tom Riddle version. It's not like actual Voldemort. Fenikagami says, and Ayam Suma is a cross-dressing gay man that designs dresses for gay men's weddings in Japan, and he turns into the snake from the Zodiac. Coincidence? I think not.
He hoped at the time when he destroyed his parents, Harry's parents, that he would also destroy Harry too, so that he didn't reach his destiny. But now that he finds out that Harry is right there at the school and learning these things, and that he's destined to become a very powerful wizard, all Lord Voldemort wants to do now is destroy Harry. And now it becomes exciting. Now your child can't wait for the next book, because is Harry going to survive? Is Harry going to find out his destiny? Is he ever going to reach his destiny? What's going to happen to poor Harry? What's going to happen to all the friends that Harry's met? By the way, at the school of Hogwarts Wizardry and Witchcraft, Harry's friends are
It annoys me more than it should that he flips witchcraft and wizardry.
all witches and wizards. And in the book, there's a message that goes out to your child. You know what that is? That the witches are the good guys, the parents are the bad guys. Portraying us, and I mean Christian parents, to look like we're a bunch of fools.
Again, your presentation is doing that. I don't need to read Harry Potter to get that.
That we are cruel, and that our rules are too strict. And now
Harry's adoptive parents are literally abusing him. They literally are abusive in the story.
Harry is treated with his best family, and his best family now are witches. Practicing witches. Isn't that amazing? And again, now your child begins to really identify with it, and it gets exciting. Now I want to read to you what she states, meaning J.K. Rowling. Here's what she actually states. In that same interview, here's what she says, and I think this gives it away. She says the idea that we could have a child who escapes from the confines of the adult world and go somewhere where he has power, both literally and metaphorically, really appealed to me. And you know what? It also appeals to your child. Because how many times has your child, have you ever asked your child, am I too strict? Do we have too many rules around here? You know what their first words are going to be? Yes, you do. You know, that's their first reaction. You sure do. And how many of us can identify when we were kids? We all reached that point where we wanted to run away. We thought there might be something better. And that starts to really get into your child's psyche, in other words, their mind, and starts to implant an idea. And that idea is that you can be a Harry Potter, you can be important, you can be special. All you need to do is become a wizard. All you need to do is give yourself to the dark side, and you can be important too. Now remember, I told you there are 3 books that are out to be published. I understand the 4th one's about to be released. And remember that J.K. Rowling, the authoress, said that the next 4 to come out are to be even darker than the first 3. If that wasn't enough. So that's the 2nd book. Here is the 3rd book that's out. It's called
Oh, he's gonna botch Azkaban. How is he gonna pronounce Azkaban? Any guesses? If he does it right, I'm gonna feel like an idiot. But like, there's no way he gets Azkaban correct, right?
2nd book. Here is the 3rd book that's out. It's called Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Close enough.
And here is Harry, and here is one of his little friends, and this is a witch, and she's riding on the back there. You see with her pointed hat. Here down in the corner here is evil Lord Voldemort. This is the one that's out to kill Harry.
Voldemort.
And Harry...
No, it's also no. Voldemort doesn't even appear in the 3rd book. What? In the first book, the last remnants of Voldemort are attached to the back of Quirrell's head. In the 2nd one, you're dealing with the Horcrux journal version. Voldemort doesn't appear in 3, and then finally in the 4th book, at the end, Voldemort is fully resurrected. Voldemort isn't even in the fucking book! Yes, he's confusing it with Sirius Black. Juggle, will do.
He is riding upon a griffin, which is a mythical bird that's supposed to be half horse, half lion, and half eagle.
That's too many halves.
And again, this is a witchcraft symbol, an occult symbol. And I ask you parents, do you think somebody just came up and said, oh, let's just throw that on there? If they didn't know what it meant. If they didn't know that the whole ideology of this new schooling is to induct our children with symbols. Instead of teaching them with words and morals and values, we're going to teach them with symbols. We're going to teach them to identify with symbols. I want to read to you right here.
You're so confused. The fashion and set design look like they are from a time before the Harry Potter books were released. Evangelicals and fundamentalists are not the first people to keep up with the times.
Out of the pages of this book, because page after page brings the reader into timeless battle.
It's okay, Stone Corbell. If you type it out, I'll read it. I know you sent those bits.
With the forces of good and evil. In fact, Hogwarts tells him, Harry, that...
Does he think that... He keeps saying Hogwarts tells him. Does he think Hagrid's name is Hogwarts? What is he talking about?
There is no such thing as good and evil. There's just power. And the amount of that power determines how good you are or how evil you are.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever said in the books. That sounds pretty antithetical to the thesis of those books, to be honest.
Think back to Star Wars. That's the same message. Exactly the same message.
You think there's not clear delineation between good and evil in Star Wars? It's cartoonish. It's cartoonish how much they black and white it. Stone Corbell says, the thing that really gets me about this guy, aside from the bigotry and lies, is how bad this guy is at telling a story. I was driving when he was doing the airplane story, but the way he belabored the point about trying to figure out what the cover said is agonizing.
Here's from Hogwarts theology, right from the pages of the first book here, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Listen to this. Here's Professor Snape, and he's the one who teaches potions. And he says this, I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the softly simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind and snaring the senses. A centaur's view on astrology. He says, we have sworn not to set ourselves against the heaven. Have we not read what is to come in the movement of the planets? Or have the planets not let you in on that secret? Once introduced to the occult, the child begins to crave more. That's designed to do that. It's not by accident. It's not by coincidence. It's designed to do that. They easily find it in their neighborhoods and schools, because I'm telling you, every bookstore now you can walk into and ask them if they have Harry Potter. Most of the time they will.
Oh my God, these bookstores have one of those popular books? Crazy.
But the very first book is the one that's hard to find. You can't find copies of it because parents have bought it, children have bought it, and sadly to say, aunts and uncles and grandparents, I've talked to several of them that have bought that book for their children or grandchildren to read. Can you imagine reading this as a bedtime story?
Yeah.
Having your child go to sleep?
Have you read it? Yeah, it's a children's book.
Dreaming about witches?
You could easily read this as a bedtime story. What are you talking about?
And evil Lord Voldemort, and wanting to have a lightning bolt on their forehead. And we wonder why our kids have bad dreams. Could it be the stuff we're reading to them?
Could it be their paranoid-ass parents? Fenakagami said he's confusing Dumbledore's speech that power isn't what makes you evil, it's how you use the power that makes you evil. It's a different version of Mewtwo's speech, from the end of the Pokemon movie. It's not how you're born, but what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
Or telling them before they go to bed. And you can identify things because now, even in big bookstores, Barnes & Noble, by the way, I was watching on CNN one night, about 2 weeks before I went on tour. How many know if you watch CNN sometimes, especially late at night, you can pick up some good stuff. And I was just happened to watch CNN, and I was watching for sports stuff, and they came on and they showed this news clip. And what the news clip was talking about Harry Potter and how big a phenomenon it was. And they were doing interviews with librarians who were saying that it was just great.
Librarians! He said it again!
Because now children were taking their time and actually reading material. And one librarian says, I don't care what it is. I don't care what it portrays. I don't care what kind of ideology our children get, just as long as they're reading. So in other words, she's saying, I don't care if it's witchcraft. If they're reading it, that's great.
Jade Monkey, thanks for 28 months.
Great. And they were doing interviews with parents. And the parents on there said, oh, I think it's just wonderful. My child just never thought about picking up a book before. And we tried to get him or her interested in books before, and they just were boring. I'm telling you, Harry Potter is not boring. To them, it is not boring. It must not be boring to parents, too, if many parents are starting to read it. And it's fascinating. And on this same clip, they actually showed a Barnes & Noble bookstore. And they said that outside of this bookstore, they were having a Harry Potter party. Try to say that 3 times.
Harry Potter party, Harry Potter party. Oh, wait, no, I can do it. Harry Potter party, Harry Potter party. Fuck. Harry Potter party, Harry Potter party, Harry Potter party. I did it.
Harry Potter party. And in this party, you were to come dressed as your favorite character. And they showed the camera going down the line of all these kids standing with their parents outside of this bookstore waiting to get into this party. There was not a book signing party. I mean, the authoress wasn't there. There was no thing special about it except that it was just a Harry Potter party. Something that you could go and celebrate your favorite character.
Okay.
And they were all outside dressed in their favorite costumes. And you know what? The most prevalent character of all was Harry. And
Oh my God, people dressed as the protagonist of the book? I'm shocked.
the way that you could tell that is that here were hundreds of children, boys and girls, who had painted lightning bolts purple on their foreheads.
Again, it wouldn't be purple because that's not in the books. Why, what are you talking about? Fenakagami says, this man is proof that illiteracy is more destructive to our society than any single book could be, so those librarians probably have a point.
And we look at it and we say, that's innocent? Oh, that's just a children's book? That's just a story? That's not real. And you know what? We sit there and probably tell our children the same thing. Honey, you don't have to worry. Those people don't exist. That's not real. There's nothing in witchcraft. That's just on TV.
Correct.
See, that's what I thought before I really got into it, was that witches were just on TV. And I had to find out for myself. I mean, I was just determined to find out if there was any such thing as witches and any such thing as magic. And that's what got me into deeper and deeper into it until I finally ended up into the darker side of it and got to the highest form, which is Satan worship. Praise God, came out of
He's definitely not lying about his past experience for money.
that. And our children are being fascinated and surrounded by peers, because peers are now actually giving peer pressure onto our children to get involved in these things. Now, what do I mean by that? Listen. Let's say, for instance, your child doesn't have Pokemon, but the boy next door does. Now, he thinks that Pokemon is just the greatest thing to come along. And he plays it religiously, okay? And now your son or your daughter is associating with that child, and your little 2-year-old or 3-year-old, 4-year-old, however old they are, is now getting peer pressure from that other child saying, how come you don't have it?
Well, a 4-year-old can't read Harry Potter. What age group does he think is reading Harry Potter? It's a children's book, but it's not like a picture book for a 4-year-old.
Don't your mom and dad love you? My mom and dad loved me. They bought me Pokemon.
I feel like the demographic of the original Harry Potter book is what, like 9 to 13-ish?
I wanted Harry Potter. They went out and got
That
me
maybe aged up a little bit as the series went on.
all 3 books. Your mommy and daddy must not like you. Now, what's that plan in your child's head? So now you can understand why they come to you, and for the first time, you're wondering why they're asking you for Pokemon. You're wondering why all of a sudden they're interested in something called Harry Potter. Because they're receiving peer pressure. Other kids are reading it and they're sharing it. You know, kids love to share information with each other all the time. I mean, sometimes you have a child in the room, you can't get a word in edgewise. You know, and they love to talk and they love to share things with each other. And if Harry Potter is what they're sharing with each other, that's what they're doing. Harry Potter is nothing more than unadulterated witchcraft in the form of a child's book. That's one of the dangers that are out there right now, trying to infiltrate the minds of our children. And they're doing a good job of it, because I'm going to tell you something. This is on the bestseller list as the #1 children's book. You think about Tom Sawyer and all the stuff that we used to read. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to give my age away, hopefully. But you read all the things that we used to read as children, and then you look at the things that our children have in front of them that they have the opportunity to read. And I'm telling you, when you look at that, and you look at that as you know, the surface of it, and you look underneath that, and you're sitting there going, wait a minute, we never had this when I was a kid. We never had witchcraft books when I was a child. You know, but these things are out there, and that's what they're designed to do, is to get our children interested and inducted into witchcraft and Satanism by making it look fun.
I don't think so, Tony Ray.
And
I
the
don't
whole
recall
message
that.
is, it's fun to be a witch. It's fun to be a wizard. You can be important. You can be to the point to where you don't need mom and dad. You don't need grandparents. You don't need aunts and uncles. You are a master. And as we did in the last session, isn't that what everything that we've been studying so far gone to show? Isn't that been the underlying message? The child becomes the master. You're the master, you become the ruler of your home. So now we wonder why our children rebel and why it seems like, my goodness, little Sally just got really obstinate lately. Everything we tell her is no.
Oh my goodness, a children saying no to their parent? That never happens. It must be demons.
And we wonder why. Because they're being taught to say no.
Children test their limits. Jesus Christ, this is not because of any particular book or demons.
No. They're being taught to rebel against parental authority, that parents aren't needed, that the child can handle it on their own. Now, our children spend about...
Ashley One Up says, did you know that this company is still going? Is this the same? Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, do they have a YouTube channel? Where's the mullet man? I need the mullet man. Do you know the mullet man? The mullet man? The mullet man. Do you know the mullet man?
16 to 24 hours a day playing games. And the most prevalent games that are played are actually referred to as video games. Meaning that
Voltmog, thanks for following.
They play them on the computer, or they play them in the arcades. Some of them are funny, some of them are good, and some of them are like this one. Look at this. This one's called Blood Omen, Legacy of Cain. Isn't that pretty? And you look up here and it says the epic role-playing game. Remember that...
I'd like to point out that this is a game rated M, which means you're not supposed to be able to buy it unless you're 17 or 18, I believe. So if he's going to say anything about children here, be aware, the game is already rated for adults only. Or no, that's a separate, higher one. But, you know, this is the one right before AO. This is the highest rating that they'll actually carry in stores generally. Although these days, games are mostly digital, but you know what I mean.
We said that in most of these games, the object is role-playing. And I will remind you that role-playing means that the player actually becomes a part of the game. Now, I don't know about you, but when I was a child, even when I was a teenager...
Back in my day...
We
used to kick a can down the road, and that was plenty entertaining for us.
Things like Space Invaders.
Sorry, Fennikagami. Fennikagami says, Boomer, you didn't have witchcraft. Instead, you read books about lazy con artists who thought honest work was for chumps, and he was the hero of the story.
Invaders and asteroids.
Have you tried to paint a fence, though? Very fun. You want to try?
And things like that. We didn't have the 3D screens that we have now. And now with the introduction of Nintendo 64 system that was released October 1996, and with the new Sega Saturn and the brand new one called Dreamcast system, because the Dreamcast system has a really high resolution screen. And what they've actually been able to do with the high technology of video that we have now is they can make fantasy look real. And I'm going to tell you, what I did was I actually sent off for promos of these games and played them on my computer. God forgive me. But that's how you find out. That's how you know. You have to look for it yourself. And I sent off for these promos, and you know, the dangerous thing about it is now with the internet system where we can actually have so easy access to websites, there are websites that your child or your teenager can tap into, and they can actually get demos of this game and play it right there on their computer. But it's one of those try before you buy type things. And I sent off for some of these, and they sent back the disc.
I did that when I was a kid. Does anyone remember Half-Life Day 1?
It actually came back in a CD-ROM disc. And you actually put it into your computer and then play it. And then what I did was took pictures on my computer. I have a program that I can go in and actually take pictures of the video screen as it's playing. So what I'm going to show you now are some of those videos.
You can print screen. We did it.
Screens, and again, I ask you to ask the Lord to sharpen your discernment so that you see what you think you see in the video screens. Now, first of all, let's look at this first one. This is Blood Omen, Legacy of Cain, epic role-playing game. Now, what happens is, in this game, you are a 600,000-year-old vampire. See his teeth?
I've never played this game, so I can't point out inaccuracies. I'm just going to assume he's going to be wrong about tons of stuff about this, like he was Teletubbies and Harry Potter and Pokemon.
You're a 600,000-year-old vampire. You've been destroyed by the bad townspeople because you've been going around biting their necks and sucking all the blood out of them. Bad townspeople should be slapped. So they go out and kill you, destroy you, and you're in the grave, and all of a sudden, someone comes along with a book of incantations and spells. And there's a reincarnation spell. And that's read over your grave.
And that's wrong, you're a normal dude who gets murdered at the beginning? Okay.
And so now, guess what? You're back to life. And it's the whole premise of this thing is that now you're the vampire, and you're with your sword and your teeth and your glaring eyes, you go after the townspeople. This is a game of revenge. And I'm going to read to you right off the back of the box of this thing, because the advertisement alone is enough to see the occult elements. Now, listen to this. Here's what's on the back of the box of this particular game. It says, butcher villagers or turn them into festering pools of decaying flesh with one of 22 demented magics. It will take you more than 100 hours of adventure to destroy all those who damned you, but you'll get them. Every last bloody one. Now, there's a rating system, a mature rating system.
Okay, so he is going to talk about the rating system.
Just like we have a rating system in movies, video games have a rating system also. And this game is M17, meaning that those that are under 17 are not supposed to be allowed to buy this particular game.
Right.
You know what? It doesn't make any difference if your child is 5, 6, or 10. If they have the money in their hands, the clerk will sell it to them.
That's absolutely not true. I remember being a minor and not being sold games that were rated M. I remember being, like, under a teenager and not being sold T for teen games. I had to get an adult's permission for that. So that's just incorrect. That's just literally not true. He's just making shit up.
And I hate to say this, but I will tend to believe, and I tend to believe, and I will bet you that 90%, at least 90% of parents don't know what their children bring through the front door of their own home. Because it's easy to go out and buy a CD. It's easy to go out and buy a game or a toy, and they put it in a bag, and they take it upstairs, and they play with it. And praise God, we all work for a living. And you know, your child comes in and wants to talk to you, and mom and dad is too busy working on their laptop, or they're, you know, doing work for the next day. And they say, honey, you know, don't bother mommy or daddy right now. Just go and play with your game. What are they playing with? We need to be aware of what our children are watching, what they're seeing, and what they're playing with. Because if it's these video games and things like that, because you know what this video game teaches? 2 things. It teaches your child how to take revenge, and it teaches the player how to kill.
Again, it's not a game for children. I'm just going to outright deny any of these claims. The game isn't for children. Your paranoia about children playing it is irrelevant. That's the parents' job to keep an eye on what their kids are playing or watching or whatever. It's not anyone else's fucking problem. Fenakagami says, remember, my fellow evangelicals, our Christian revenge fantasy of the rapture that's arguably more violent than any game is moral and righteous.
So now, let's imagine a 10-year-old playing this video game. What's he learning? What is the message that he or she is getting through the video game? Number 1, that there is such a thing as magic, and that it works. Number 2, if someone does something to you, you do it to them. In Satanism, in the Satanic Bible written by Anton Szandor LaVey, one of the golden rules in there, one of the 9 satanic golden rules in there, says this: Do unto others before they do it unto you.
Just a Peach with a tip says, how is your 5-year-old going to the store with $50 to $60 and make it home without anyone calling the cops in the 90s?
And so this is what these games are teaching our children and our teenagers, because these games are real popular with the teenage crowd. They go to the video stores and they pick up these games, or they go to the arcade and they play them over.
First of all, you wouldn't have a game like this in an arcade. Secondly, again, you get carded. If you want to rent a game or you want to buy a game and it's above the rating for your age, you can't get it.
And over again. Now, Sega has out for its Saturn system one called Nights into Dreams, and here's what the advertisement of that
Wait, you're gonna do... What's wrong with Nights?
says. Listen to this. Nights brings you face to face both with your guiding spirits and your innermost demons. Well, praise God, that's what we all want. Final Fantasy IV, a game released in October 1996 for PlayStation, is complicated because it's complemented by the authors of the Next Generation Game magazine. Here's what Next Generation Game says. It says the setting for this game is marked Makatashi, the city of bright magic, and one of the characters is a good witch named Aerith. Do you think it's by coincidence they're putting witches, vampires, demons, wizards in the city?
I'm going to skip ahead because I haven't played that Mark of Cain game, but I want him to talk about Digimon and the Animorphs, so I'm going to skip ahead since we're close to being done with the stream for the day.
To share with you right here, and we're just going to hope that the cameraman can follow along with it. I'm just going to set it in front. Here's one called Digimon. I'll just hold it there. Here's one called Digimon. Now, you look at this.
Why even bother with the Digimon? I feel like you're just going to say the same things you said about Pokemon.
This toy, and you think, what is the difference between Digimon and Pokemon?
M. Scheffler says, boo!
And the answer is absolutely nothing. The story is the same. They are monsters that can evolve and grow into bigger and better monsters. The only difference is...
Technically, they don't evolve, they digivolve. It's a legal difference.
Using energy balls, they use that little yellow-orangish device called a digivice. These are kids that are on an island, and these monsters, these digimonsters, that's what it stands for, digital monsters, are on an island with them. And these digimonsters at times attack the children. And to fight them off, they use a digivice. See, if you start talking like that, pretty soon your mouth's going to get all tangled up.
H-Bird says maybe he's secretly one of the Digi-destined. That's why he hated that Raising Cain game since vampires were popping out of his computer.
Device, Digimon. Things like that. So it's like you look at those things, and there's nothing, absolutely nothing different in the premise of this than there is Pokemon. The same company doesn't put it out, but you know what? They jumped on it. Pokemon was so popular, now we'll come out with Digimon. But again, it's an Oriental...
Wait until this guy hears about Yokai Watch.
...idea. For years, for hundreds of thousands of years, since time began, one of man's biggest beliefs was that he could bring out the animal nature in himself, even to the point of actually maybe finding a way to become an animal. Well, praise God, someone found a way to do that. And it comes actually from an occult practice called lycanthropy. And that's where you get the werewolf, being able to transform from a human into animal form and then back to human. Well, now your teenage crowd has their heroes, and they're called Animorphs.
Fennikagami says Digimon is most kids' first isekais, and while the general idea of them is the same, Pokemon and Digimon are actually very different, and Digimon is better. I'll take your word for it.
Let's see if I can get a little... There we go. Animorphs. And if you look at that, in this particular case, This is a teenager that can transform himself into a tiger. And it says on the back of the box, the invasion has begun. And then it also says, we call ourselves Animorphs. We can't tell you who we are or where we live. It's too risky. But it tells you that there are aliens that have invaded the earth, and that the only hope for Earth's struggle against these things are these teenagers who can transform themselves into animals. And so now, wouldn't that be real appealing to a child who goes around growling all the time anyway and acting like he's a dog or a cat or, whatever. And now they go, man, wouldn't that be fun to be able to transform yourself into an animal? Wouldn't that be fun to become Bowser for a day? And then
Bowser isn't even an animal. He's like a turtle dragon, but that's not a real animal.
back.
You can't anamorph into a fictional animal.
Animorphs. Here's a cute one. If you can get a shot of that. That's a cute one right there. That actually transforms itself from a good animorph to an evil animorph.
It's transforming into the alien species or something.
Now, I don't know. Again, I look out in the audience, and we have a lot of children, but we have a lot of probably, I'd say probably in the 30s, 40s.
Densetsu says, as someone in the furry TF community, I've seen Bowser stuff. That should be under monster fuckery. Bowser is not he's a monster. That should not go under furry. That should 100% go under monster fuckery.
Even 20s audience also. I don't know, going back even to what you were playing with, but we had like G.I. Joe, and we had planes and Superman and Batman, and I mean our hero characters were more the heroes.
What are you talking about?
I don't know what you call these things. They're definitely not heroes.
They are. They're fighting against an alien invasion.
And I never seen anything that they're now coming out making it look so ugly. Look at that. That thing looks like something we used to pray to outside the circle. Looks like a demon. Remember that I told you that demons can appear to you in any way, shape, or form that makes you the most feared. Huh. Guess what little Billy or Bobby are going to dream about when they get through playing with that before they go to bed? Wouldn't that be wonderful? And I'm going to show you the most atrocious of all. And I tell you something. If you don't believe that your kids like these things, see the tape on this box? I didn't know whether these things were going to...
Spawn is not a children's character. He's holding a Spawn action figure. Spawn is a comic book character for adults.
survive the tour.
It's like expressly violent and dark.
Get here for the video shoot. I really didn't. The reason that's torn like that is because there were kids up there trying to get to it. They were wanting to get it out of the box and play with it. Look at that. You get a shot of that? Look at that. And I mean, if you want to see it closer, I'll show it to you closer later on. But you need to see this thing. These things are designed for your ages 5 and up.
No, it is not.
5 and up. And if you look down here on the bottom here, you'll see what looks to be an ankh, and it's a satanic ankh.
It's a satanic ankh.
You have the cross, and the loop is not a loop. The loop is a skull. And on the skull, it actually in the forehead has another satanic symbol. And you look on here, and I'm going to read to you what it says here on the back. Hopefully this thing stays together. This is called Tormentor. And it says, a strange brute, a savage brute with no soul. He lives to inflict torment, pain, and terror on others. His pleasure comes from the pain of others. He's a master of torture and the many instruments used to amplify pain and suffering. One of his most cruel acts was grafting the head and body parts of his victims to his own body as to be able to make their pain everlasting. And this is a toy for 5 and up. A toy.
Again, it's not for 5 and up. It's for adults. Spawn is a comic book for adults. Children do not read Spawn comics. They wouldn't even find them interesting.
You see that they have found a way to make evil look cute and get it into the homes of even our Christian kids. And I can tell you, I mean, even if your kids don't bring this stuff home, I guarantee you they know somebody that's got it. Even if they don't have Pokemon, I can guarantee you that they know many other kids that do. And if they're not playing these video games, I'll bet you they go over to the house of people that are, kids that are. And you have to wonder what kind of influence it's having on them when they come back into our homes. And I'm going to tell you something else. You need to be aware of what they might bring in the door with them when they come back to your home. Because spirits can transfer. And if these things are actually, remember we said that one thing that these things do is they attract demons like a magnet? Then guess what your child has with him dragging in when he opens up the door after he's been subject to this thing, to these toys, to these video games, to these books. Guess what he's bringing in the front door with him when he comes back in your home? Demons. And those things are now in your home. Another toy is one of the ones that we look at that are kind of innocent looking. And everybody goes, oh no, not Furby. Not Furby. Not innocent, cute little Furby. Yep. Let me tell you a story, and it's a true story, that happened to me because I happened to be a big part of it. I went to the Prophecy Club one morning to talk to my wife. My wife, by the way, my beautiful, adoring, sweet, loving wife. See, I had to say that on tape. I can't tell you why I had to say that, but I did. And I went to see her and talk to her. She's the business office manager for the Prophecy Club. And I went to talk to her about something, and I went to the door, and one of the girls met me and right at the door, and she said, "You've got to go upstairs." And I said, and she was just real, adamant about it. "You got to get upstairs." And I said, "What?" And she goes, "There's a Furby up there." Oh, God forbid. I'd Furby. I said, What? She goes, "Oh, you got to go up there and talk to Joanne." So you got to go up there and see what happened. Went up there, and my wife was sitting there at the computer and typing in orders and things. And I looked at her and I said, "What in the world is going on?" I noticed there was one of the Furbies were sitting right there on her desk. And she said that there's a couple there that work there. They're getting ready to get married, and young couple, and he had given her a Furby for her birthday. Now, she began to tell me a story about this Furby. She had put this Furby on her dresser, and one time at night, the Furby actually started speaking and waking her up. And it said, "Me want you." Now, you need to understand that this is the only toy created that actually has its own language.
The fucking Furbish.
And they tell us that there is a almost human computer chip. And by the way, there is a computer chip right now getting ready to be released called the Angel chip that is supposed to be able to even be implanted into human bodies because it actually can take the place of an organ's functions.
A computer chip is going to take the place of an organ function? That doesn't make any sense. That literally doesn't make any sense. My liver's shot, but yeah, I'll put a computer chip in there. That'll fix it. Oh my God, it is this guy's website. Wow. Oh, the Prophecy Club copyrighted like a bunch of the videos. I will save this. There we go. Thank you.
A computer chip. You'll be hearing more about that later. But they have a computer chip inside of them that allows them to develop language. And you're also told that these Furbies not only have their own language, but they can learn your language.
Yeah, that's all like marketing bullshit. Basically, a Furby, as long as it's turned on, it'll speak the nonsense gibberish that they call Furbish, and then the longer it's on, it'll just start speaking in English more. It's not some high-tech crazy bullshit thing. It's literally just like, oh, how long have I been activated for? Harold Elbelman with a 10-stream streak says, 10 streams? Funny how terrified these Christians are of being afraid, of being made afraid, while also rapidly consuming sermons I can only describe as fear porn. Reminds me of those racists who are terrified of someone doing something to their horses because of their hatred, but who would fantasize about doing exactly that in their meetings, yeah.
And the more you talk to them, the more they pick up words from you. And they have language that they identify with each other, and that this is the only toy on the market that can communicate with each other. And you know what? They can do that miles away.
No, they can't. They literally have a little IR reader in the forehead, and they have to, like, be, like, facing each other to have those line up so they can communicate. So they cannot be, like, even this far apart would be too far. I can stretch my arms further than would be too far apart for Furbies to communicate. They do not communicate miles apart.
They have tested it.
Fennikagami says, but counterpoint, Digimon has a teenager who punches dinosaurs and other monsters to power up his dinosaur dragon that calls him boss, and your religion just has a kid beat a tall dude by throwing a rock. Maybe if your religion was less lame, people would make cool toys for it and kids would get excited.
The toy manufacturers have run a big test on it, and it works. And they hear each other miles away, and they can communicate.
No, they don't. Again, see on their forehead in the center, the kind of black, like, weird thing? There's an IR sensor. It's like a TV remote, and it can communicate if their foreheads are lined up.
Communicate back and forth with each other from miles away. Only toy on the market that can do that. Now, going back to the story. Young couple had been given the Furby. She woke up in the middle of the night because the Furby was actually talking. Put the Furby down on the floor. Passed by it, and there's supposed to be a computer analog right here. That's what this is here. That black design.
It's a sensor.
In the middle of their forehead. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Right in the middle of their forehead, and this is supposed to be the sensor. And it detects movement and also detects sound, and that's what is supposed to trigger off the chip in order for this to be able to talk. And its eyes move up and down. Now, put it on the floor and didn't want it anymore, didn't want to talk to it anymore, and for days passed by it and nothing happened. And then one time it was on the desk again and said, "Me want your body." Then she said, "No, I don't want this thing anymore." Gave it back to her boyfriend. Now, the boyfriend and the girlfriend had it in the car. We're on the way to the Prophecy Club to take it over there. A car came out of nowhere, broadsided them from the side, and didn't hurt them, praise God, but, blindsided the car, so the car is enabled. Took it back to the Prophecy Club and left it there. It was downstairs in the mail room, and that's where the guys downstairs in the mail room at the Prophecy Club are busy filling out everybody's orders and things. And they had it sitting there, and one of the mail guys got upset with it because turned around and said it felt like that something was watching him from behind. Took it upstairs, and it ended up on my wife's desk. And she looked at me, and I'm going to tell you something. My wife is a born-again, Spirit-filled, Bible-believing, God's word-reading Christian. I mean, she is on fire for the Lord. And she does not tell things if they're not true. And she
okay, but you can be wrong about things. She could be misunderstanding a situation.
Told me what happened. The Furby was sitting on her desk, and she took the batteries out of this Furby because the Furby started talking. She didn't like what it said. It said, "Me no like you." And she said, "Well, I don't like you either," and it started to take the batteries out of it. So she took the batteries out of it, and it growled at her. And she said, "It growled." And I said, "You mean it just made a growling noise?" She said, "No, it growled."
The Furby did not growl at her. Bittergrin says, if she told you that that beard looked good, then she definitely tells things that aren't true.
I said, "Let me see that thing." And I picked that Furby up, and I sat down in a chair. And for about 5 minutes, all I did was try to commune with God and try to and ask the Lord. I said, Lord, show me what's in this. Show me what's behind all this. Is this just a toy? And all of a sudden I said, and I, you know, you just have to take that spiritual authority over these things, you know. And I sat there and I said, in the name of Jesus of Nazareth, I said, I know who you are. I know what you are. I said, reveal yourself now. And Furby opened up its eyes and said, me no like you. And I said, well, I don't like you either. You're out of here. In the name of Jesus, leave.
You're so paranoid. You're talking with an inanimate object.
And the beak shut, the eyes shut. Now, it said this without any batteries in the toy. No power. No electronic
Yeah, he's full of fucking shit.
power. No AC/DC, you know, power going to it. This thing spoke without power to it. And spoke out, and when it said, me no like you, I don't care. You're out of here. In the name of Jesus, you're out of here. So it left, the beak shut, the eye shut, didn't talk again. I gave it back to the young couple, and I said, because that was given to you, you now must be the one to destroy that thing. I can destroy it for you, but you need to take authority and break that curse. And so
I'd just sell the cursed Furby on eBay.
they took it out and they burned it. Now, she came to me, the young girl came to me.
I'm sure those fumes are real good to breathe in, too.
At church about, I think it was about almost a week later. And she said that the Lord led her to a book on Celtic deities and gods. And that the Furby, have you ever noticed when you go out to buy a Furby, these things have already names assigned to them? In other words, if you go out on the market right now and you go to look at a Furby, they already have a name given to them. Such as Tukala is one of them. Hers
So do the Cabbage Patch Kids?
was called Mimi, M-I-E, M-I-E. And she said that Mimi really stuck in her head, and the Lord led her to this book on Celtic deities and gods from the library, and she looked it up, and Mimi was in there. And it described what Mimi was. Mimi was a giant that sat under a tree whose branches reached to heaven and roots reached to hell. And that this giant ruled over a land of dwarfs that were evil and did mischievous things. And I started thinking, wow, I wonder if the other names have anything to do with it. So I started going out to the store, and I went to toy stores and looking for Furbies. And I was looking at the names of all of them and writing them down in a little book so that I could go back and try to see some of them. And some of them just kind of hit something in my mind. And I thought, I've heard that name somewhere before. That name's real familiar. Where have I heard that before? And I went and I looked up, I went into the website.
I'm probably going to do like another 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to call it a night, by the way, because we've been doing this for 3 hours. We still have a lot of this video left, but I'm not going to be here for another hour. So.
It's not a Christian website, but it's another website that actually lists names of demons in hierarchy. In other words, it's a book of demons. I found 10 of them in that book of demons. 10 of those names of those Furbies. 13 of them I went and found in a book on Celtic gods and deities. My opinion.
M. Scheffler says, boo, I'm sorry. And yeah, we'll probably raid VC archives.
My opinion, but I believe this is what the Lord has shown me.
No, he talks about a bunch of other things, not just Furbies.
These innocent, cute little things are vehicles for demonic entities. You know, like if you have a car and you drive a Chevy and you go out tonight in the parking lot, you don't look for a Dodge, you don't look for a Plymouth or something, you know, you look for that particular Chevrolet, right? That because that's your car, that's what's been assigned to you, that's what you bought, and that's what you drive, and so therefore that's your vehicle. Same thing with these things. These demons have that name assigned to that toy, so therefore that's their vehicle. What better way to get in your home?
But the names are recurring. Like, they don't have all unique names. So, like, is the demon just in every version of that Furby?
Then you bring those things in your home. And the thing about it is, when you start looking at those things, what do they look like? When you saw Furby, what did it remind you of?
Mogwai.
Okay, Ewoks. Gremlins. And what happened to Gremlins? When you poured
Just a Peach with a dollar tip says, how many store workers get creeped out by this guy hanging out in the aisle staring at the toys?
Water on them. They turned into what? Demons.
They turned into gremlins. It's the title of the film. They're mogwai that turn into gremlins.
Not evil other gremlins. The gremlins became demons.
No, they didn't. They're just gremlins.
And so that's what these things have done. And I started looking at that and I said, man, that almost looks like a takeoff of Gizmo. And now
they did eventually do a Gizmo Furby.
Gizmo Furby.
They do. Yeah.
And on the box, it's for $29.99. For $29.99, you can have Gizmo in your home. And it says that he can communicate with Furbies and baby Furbies. And you wonder what they're saying to each other. Here is an experiment that they did. Now this was taken off of a kind of, it was the picture was kind of blurry, but I wanted to get it on. I hope you can kind of see that. The picture itself was blurry. It's not the overhead itself. But if you look at this now, there's a Furby, and this is a guinea pig.
Okay.
A big guinea pig. That was funny, what? Okay. Now, what they did was they actually put this Furby in with the guinea pig to see how fast that would develop its language.
What?
20 seconds was all it took for that Furby to be able to imitate everything that guinea pig did.
What? What are you talking about? None of that's true. The Furby cannot speak in guinea pig. What are you talking about?
You ever seen a guinea pig, or you ever had a guinea pig? What they do is they whistle, and that's how they communicate. This thing started whistling the same thing.
No! No!
20 seconds. That's not normal for any toy.
This is not normal, this speech, let me tell you.
To be able to do that. Okay, enough on Furby. Show you some of the ones that are out on the market. Here's one from the popular movie, and we talked a little bit about it the first session, in fact.
Yeah, that's Michael Myers. Again, this isn't for children. This is like something someone like me would buy, who's an adult who's into horror films. H. Baird says, guinea pigs are well known for being Earth's greatest philosophers.
Halloween. Remember the story of Michael Myers? This is Michael. And now you can go out and buy your hero slasher and take it home and play with it. And wouldn't you want your nice 5- and 6-year-old son or daughter?
It's not, again, it's not for children, you dumb asshole.
This through the door of your home.
What would a child even do with this? They'd have no idea who it is or like what to play with it.
And start playing with it. Because this can kill G.I. Joes and everything else, and the G.I. Joes can't kill it.
G.I. Joes have guns. I'm pretty sure they could stop Michael Myers.
Okay. All your little army men going against it, remember, you can't be killed. Here's another picture of him. And you see, there he is with the overalls. There he is with the mask. And there
It's not overalls.
he is, and this is a toy.
This man doesn't even know what overalls are.
This is an action figure. Action figure.
Is Michael Myers magic in any sense? I've never seen the movies. Depends on the individual movie and timeline. Which is, the Halloween franchise has multiple diverging timelines. It's a lot to explain. Jitara says, is this man power scaling action figures? I think so.
And we talked about this one. Scream. Here he is, the maniacal killer from Scream, complete with the Halloween costume and the mask. And you can't see it, but right there's the cell phone. And he's even got a little dagger with him.
Yeah.
And these are designed for 5 years and up.
Again, no, not really. No, they're not.
right there on the box. Here's a clearer. Look at that. There he is with the knife. There he is with the mask, costume, scream. There's the cell phone. How many remember Sleepy Hollow? Legend of Sleepy Hollow? Here's a nice toy. Action figure Sleepy Hollow, complete with no head. But he's carrying heads. There's the axe, even got blood on the axe. These are for our kids to play with.
No, they're not. They're for adults to collect.
You imagine what they're going to do with them. Or you can get the Sleepy Hollow Deluxe, complete with the head, which is not much better looking. There's the axe. There's his head. He's supposed to,
So no head.
that is supposed to go on there. For Grandpa.
All right, what else does he
Movie.
cover? Because I got to get
There's
going.
this and all, right
I don't
in
know what
here.
that's from.
A skull, and that's a goat's head skull, by the way. It's a toy. And again, that month.
All right, after that, he just goes into, like, Ouija boards and symbols and stuff. So that's another Satanic Panic Sunday for us. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out and watch that guy be crazy about media stuff. He's an interesting guy. Anyway, let's see. VC Archives is live. We'll do that raid. Oh, the Donut Man! VC Archives is watching the Donut Man! Alright, I'll see y'all later. I have electrolysis tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll be streaming tomorrow, but I'll definitely see you Tuesday for tinfoil. So I'll see y'all soon. Have a great night, and have something good for dinner. Stay away from Pokemon, I guess. Alright, bye everyone.